Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me, as he always does, is the esports historian, Duncan Thorin Shields. We've got Sammy Davis, Bainlaw, pressing the buttons. It's the usual crew. We're all here, and we're all ready to talk about Counterstrike, a game we all love, and has given us so much, so many great memories, and enhances our lives, doesn't it, guys? I feel that way about Counterstrike. Do you guys both feel that way about Counterstrike?
Yeah.
I will say, like, the online matches, they have grated a little bit, but I do agree. Put it this way: whenever it's like an actual banger match that's really good, or fucking clutches, a bit of back and forwards, yeah, it can sort of draw you in still. I think it still has the magic to it as a game. It's why it's actually so sad, all the things that are going on in the industry, because I look at the game and I still think this is, like, bearing in mind, and I've already accepted a long time ago, and like the others, like Quake is never coming back. Like, listen, it doesn't matter how good the game is, even. It's like I even told Too Good that's a bit. Your game could actually be the best version of Quake ever. It's not going to be a big game, though, is it? So bearing in mind that's not happening. Counter-Strike's the next best thing for me. So I still think it's still got enough of the charm that when you get properly drawn in, it's sick.
Sam?
Yeah, I still get hype watching good tournaments. Obviously, like you said, online it's a bit boring. It's hard to get us into it because there's no crowd, and it just feels like the players aren't as arsed, which I can't really blame them. But yeah, once they're back at LAN, for sure, I feel like it's easy to get back into when something in the hype happens.
Yeah, well, obviously I've come out of retirement. I'm going to be doing events. I'm going to be doing the Beyond the Summit regional major ranking event where I get to see teams like all plan.
By the way, just a random question for my own amusement: does Hotbid still work with CS Summit?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Listen, that's just an internal thing that makes me smile. But like, fucking hell, mate, what's happened? What's happened in the last few years? You didn't get along with him, put it that way. But understandably so, I didn't for the same reason.
Yeah, look, it's like I told you on the last episode. I mean, you know, I try. You know, like, I know obviously the narrative is that, you know, I'm a bullheaded kind of guy who can never like acknowledge he's wrong, or, you know, yeah, there's some relationships where, you know, I wanted privately to like fix them if it was possible, because ultimately, you know, the negative forces, the negative forces that were in esports aren't really in esports, you know, like it's actually the external forces that are coming into esports now that are a problem. Yeah. And therefore, you know, all the OGs, much like when we had our differences in the past, and then we realized it was better if we were, you know, we were pretty much aligned on 95% of the stuff anyway, and we knew what fights were important. So why the fuck were we fighting each other? We were just making it easier for the enemy to triumph ultimately, you know, but spreading ourselves on two fronts. And so, you know, I've reached out to loads of people like behind the scenes have been like, you know, like, I know we had like issues, but you know, they were on me. I apologize. You know, I can be hot-headed, and there's no need for us to have those issues moving forward. And I made up a hot bit a while ago. I put all the cards on the table when I did it, and basically said, these are the reasons why I think you were a cunt. These are the times I was a cunt, and I recognize my behavior was unacceptable. I hope we can reconcile, and you know, obviously be on each, you know, not be like bezzy mates and, you know, going to the beach and partying with each other or whatever. But, you know, I hope we can have a professional relationship in future. And I've got a lot of respect for what you've contributed to the industry. And, you know, that was reciprocated, and we squared it away. And then, you know, out of the blue, when the opportunity for the RMR came up, I just like put it out there. Like, I was looking to get some table time, maybe cast some games, host some events, because I wanted to get back into it this year, you know, ahead of retirement or whatever. And yeah, he just said, "Oh, fucking hell," he goes, "Rich, you know, we asked for you at the last one. We thought you were retired. Yeah, we'll find a way to fit you in." So, you know, that's how that went down. It was already fixed by that point, you know. It was like we'd already sort of fixed it way back in the past. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that 5 years ago.
I actually have realized, as you say that, by the way, one thing I hadn't really considered, which is, like, obviously, because plebs tell us all the time that we're just losers, old guys, like, they make it sound like so uncool, right? The problem people don't know is, in the actual industry where people might have to actually meet us in the fucking physical form, as they might say in the rap game, people are mad intimidated. So what I actually never take into account is they're never going to go first, are they? Because they're gonna think that if they come to us, we're just gonna go, right, fuck you still, you know, like, and then just it's gonna get nothing.
Well, we do have that reputation, you know, for being, you know, like very stubborn, because, you know, to do what we do, there is an element of that where you have to absolutely stick to your guns, even in the face of very tempting offers to yield, essentially. And so, you know, like, it's like I said, it was like, I mean, we're going to talk about Scott later on. with the CSPPA drama. But it's like I said at the end of the last episode, I'm not looking to beef with people that help build the industry and have made a stellar contribution to the industry, even if for whatever reason they don't particularly like me much right now. You know, the new targets that you have to be really focused on. It ain't any of us. It ain't any of us boomers that are like holding on to trying to build the esports dream and trying to mold it into what it should have been rather than what it is rapidly becoming. And so I'm dedicating the last of my energy to that. And you know, I'm not like you because I know you'll go to war. You'll push all your chips in and go to war with everyone all at once.
Not lie. That is one thing I was thinking when you were saying all that stuff. Like, I'm trying to build it. I was like, it's weird because, you know, every now and then you're just passing ships in the night. Because I'm kind of like, I'm just waiting for it to be like I Am Legend. And listen, I don't care if I recognize that guy. I've got the shotgun. He's a fucking zombie. It just has to be done, doesn't it? I've always sort of, you know, had that in the back of my mind. It might come to that. I have realized, though, this is actually an epiphany I had recently, is that even though, because luckily I'm just in esports, at the moment I can still get away with it. I have realized I have pretty bad actual like tactics for war. Because if you think of like Game of Thrones, right, you can't just be on your own. You have to have some allies, even if they're cunts, by the way, because sometimes you have as many men as the other guy or the right person tactically. So one of our problems is I do realize in every other time in history I would just be wrecked and probably dead ages ago. Because I just
no man is an island, Duncan.
I will genuinely just go like, all right, 1v15 then, like take turns. And by the way,
by the way, no one ever takes turns.
No, that's the other part. Then they start putting digs in. You're like, what's the rules? And there are no rules, bitch. Like, oh, great, sound done in again. No, I used to even think that. I'll give you a little insight into how I used to be. And now I have learned you have to have like networking and social skills and all that shit, right? I did used to think when people said that, like, no man is an island. I was like, I literally come from an island, dickhead. What do you think Britain is? I realised that's actually not it sounds like a sick line, doesn't it? I know, but it's
completely misunderstood the whole point.
No, but my philosophy was, look at the way Britain just fucking rocked the world as a little island. Just like, oh, don't even need to expand and take France. Just fucking have this island, operate shit from here. That's like having your whole fucking block that you're running. Then you go back to your gaff, don't you? You don't need to have their house as well. You just go back to your gaff with their shit. But that's enough about Middlesbrough. They don't need to know.
Enough about Borough.
Because everyone sat home going, what does he mean? Why do you go back with their stuff?
Yeah.
You're right about that life.
But yeah, you know, so I'm not, like, I've noticed you're ramping up hostilities at a time I'm kind of winding mine down. Because, you know, it's not bullshit. I know a lot of people are going to fucking say, like, you know, like, I want to just start doing some other things. I don't know if it means completely, like, extricating myself from esports, but overall, the commitment to esports has got to be dialed back in some capacity. I want to work on like big projects and not constant daily devotion and dedication. I want to start working on some other things alongside the esports, and then I think eventually uncouple myself from the esports, and then, you know, whatever it is I build after that, focus on that. And yeah, it's you know, that, so obviously, like, I don't want to leave the industry and be like, you know, here's a bunch of beef and negativity.
Oh, understand. I will literally leave. Like the fuck you.
I know, mate.
You haven't had a chance to betray me yet. Fuck you. I'll see you on Monday. Fuck you. And anyone else, fuck all of you. And I'll leave.
Yeah,
I'll be out. That's it.
I know. It's like, but it's like you said to me. I don't even know if it was on by the numbers or whether it was private. You said, what betide I ever win another award? That's what you said because the speech.
Yeah. No, the mad thing is, this is how fucked my brain is now.
Yeah, I know.
What I thought when Richard did that amazing speech, where everyone was like, "Wow, he's so brave." I just thought I want to do my version of that, but internally in the industry. Like, I want to do it for the people in that room. Like, I want to be like, and if you could all just lock the doors now,
lock the doors. Yeah. The doors will be
all right.
locked.
I see you in the front row there, Mr. Guy from Riot. All right, so and so from just start teeing off on motherfuckers. See when they'll cut the mic.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what I'm doing anyway. I'm trying to, you know, I want to mend fences on my way out. I don't want to leave a, you know, big fucking hole in the wall. So me and Hoppy were cool. And I'm super happy to be back working with Fifth Lauren. And again, you know, I haven't done an event with him in a long time.
Married now, of course.
Yeah.
Now, that's how absurd this timeline's become.
I know.
Fifth Lauren of all people is now married.
I know. I'm, you know, married to one of my other favorite people in the world. So,
by the way, that's one of the few times, because I don't bullshit, where I'd actually genuinely say I think both people checked out there, mate. They actually both sort of fucking shot above the level. Maybe.
Oh yeah, mate. Yeah. It's great. It's actually worked out. Yeah, it's worked out legit for both of them. No, it's always nice to see your friends, you know, like sort of get together and see all that stuff. So yeah, it's been good, mate. You know. Anyway, look. Shout out to the sponsors. .com, .com/RLS. Also check out their Twitter feed right now because they're entering into the world of NFTs and other stuff this boomer doesn't understand. But go check it out. They're great, and it's been a pleasure to work with them to the fucking moon, etc. And obviously, check out our VPN sponsor, nordvpn.com/RLS. Get up to 70% off if you sign up for a VPN, which you'll need. So once again, Duncan, the reason there's a bit of a sort of weary, fatigue coming into the show is I never wanted the podcast to be petty grievances. You do know that, obviously, about me. You know what I wanted was to do a straight fire show where we kept it real and we give all our opinions about Counterstrike and we talk mostly about the game and the roster moves and some interesting behind the scene tidbits, and it was all straight fire. Now, fortunately for me, we still do that. We've never foregone that goal and that vision for the show. But what keeps happening week in, week out is everyone's trying to manufacture drama. And so
for some reason, we're in the stories. Like, I've never understood that, mate. I spent my whole career in esports. I'm not joking, guys. I might have literally spent 14, 13 years where I was the guy talking about the story.
Yeah,
it's mental when you're just in the story every time. Like, what? Yeah, so then it's the same struggle session of and of course he's done all this. Oh, give me a break. Not again, please.
Again.
Can I say anything, please?
Yeah, I know. No, but I've never, like you say, I've done multiple streams recently about it. And it's just, I don't know the point where my opinions became news in and of themselves. I don't think I'm that important. So I don't understand why everyone
say something super epic, unless it was some insane comment. But the idea a comment about the game. Yeah, why would that be front page news,
and the thing is as well, I see all these fucking clickbait bullshit websites that don't even quote me accurately or don't, or they tunnel in on one line out of 4 hours of talking. And, that's the thing that they want to focus on, divorced from any context around it, and it just happens now on a. I'm not I'll knock the simple stuff out the park.
Yeah, do
it. Because
it's pretty open and shut for people. There's not going to be a massive drama.
This is not a drama as far as I'm concerned, and I think we're already at 200 comments on a Reddit thread of the usual lies and nonsense. This is one of those examples of fucking losers. Just actual deranged losers trying to make something where there isn't anything. So this is what happened. These are the Cliff's notes for those who want to know. Basically, for some time, I have said that Na'Vi, with the roster it has, should be better. And when they won Katowice last year, I said this should be the start of the era. There was a famous bit. Yep. I said this is a team that's ready to dominate all tier one. Everyone else is going to get banged out. These boys are fucking amazing. You've got Simple, the best player in the world for me. I even thought it in the year Ziwu was given best player in the world. Although at least I appreciate the debate. This year, by the way, it's not even a discussion. No, Ziwu isn't even close to Simple right now. Simple is on a planet by himself as the best player, hands down, in 2021. And that era that should have happened never materialized. And when you followed Simple's career, there has always been a number of burdens and millstones around his neck, right? Winning trophies for Simple should be easy. He should have 4 players around him of just equal belief and ability and a
basically what Device had. Device didn't even have to be the best player in the tournament to win the MVP because he just had the platform from which if he had a good game, he just win the MVP, didn't he?
Exactly. And for example, in past teams, like when he had Edward and Zeus, the handicaps to Simple's achieving greatness and winning trophies were very clear to everybody. Those players had played too long. They didn't make a fragging contribution. And we went through it back then, if you remember, Duncan. We said Zeus doesn't look to be a great tactical IGL. It wouldn't even matter if he was because he gets 2 kills a half. Edward is dead weight and has been for a while, and we said that. And we've always been pulling for a version of Na'Vi that lets Simple get the accolades and the trophies and achievements we both believe he deserves. As people who have been as close as pundits will ever get, well, as close as we'll allow ourselves to get to being a stan or a fan of a player. Duncan is on record as having said back when it was Toxic Simple and all the people who bang on us every day with their empty shit lives and their delusions, you were attacking him, if you remember, because he wasn't the best. He could have been the best player in the world, but he had a lot of stuff in his locker. A checkered past, said some unsavory things, done some unsavory things. And every time he voiced an opinion, he had to go through the crucible of hatred. So I can empathize with where Simple is now. And it doesn't, him voicing an opinion today doesn't bother me. But anybody who thinks that we hate Na'Vi is just a cretin. Anybody who thinks we don't want what's best for like Simple, the CIS region, all this, like we have some agenda, not just a cretin, but fully mentally ill and delusional. Or you work for cybersport.ru, or you're that fucking guy, I can't remember his name, the Greasy, or whatever that cunt's called. So, at the end of the day, you can follow all of our work for years. Our position is very consistent and very accurate. Now, recently, I basically said that, after they did a pitiful defense at IEM Katowice, finishing 5th to 6th, 9th to 12th at ESL Pro League, I said something has got to change. And for me, it lies in these problems. You have Flamey on the roster. Flamey is a check stealer. You have Boomich as an IGL. Boomich is not a leader of men. He's not a tactical genius. And all the plan that for Zeus to groom him and make him a genius went out the window when Zeus fucked off. And the other thing, I think Blade's style of coaching is slow and too slow and doesn't play into the explosive potential of a lineup like Na'Vi. And I said, I think to win what at that point, I believe, was 2 trophies in 2 years with that roster that Blade had been a coach of when he came in in 2019, remember? I said that wasn't good enough. And I stand by all of that. I stand by it all because
put it this way, they've been in it's like the Team Liquid before they won. They were in 1 million semi-finals, 1 million. I mean, I'm giving it hyperbole, but put it this way, like over the time span you're talking about, I'm going to guess they were in what, like fucking 20, 10, 15, 20 semis or something. Like if the idea you get 2 after that, well, you either were just not as good or something went fucking wrong, didn't it? That's why I give the Team Liquid example. They used to make the final and then always lose.
Yeah, and so, when you can be a great team, you can be one of the best teams in the world, and you can still have deficiencies. That's what
I think really fucked with you on this one. It's because technically they were ranked #1 based on the accomplishments. People still couldn't get it, but the point is you can still be not living up to your potential, of course.
How can the #1 team in the world justify finishing 9th to 12th at a tournament? That was the problem. And look, for me, the issues were very clear, right? But unfortunately, because Blade is CIS royalty, Na'Vi are the biggest dog.
Yes.
And Blade is a nice guy. We saw that when he did that video for you. No one is impugning.
He's not involved with this drama either, personally.
Yeah, of course he's not.
He's not at all.
He never says anything. He never spreads anything. He'd be well within his rights, by the way, to make a video saying this is why I disagree with Richard Lewis and calling me a cunt or whatever. I'd take that on a chin like a big boy. That's not a problem. You do what you got to do, mate. I wish you... So, they said nothing, right? No player pipes up when they're losing the tournaments and everything I've said is right and the community agree with it. As we'll talk about later, Na'Vi have had this great run, fantastic run at DreamHack. It's a legit result. Not only did they beat Heroic, they swept Gambit in the final. You played some other tough opponents across the way. That's the #1 team and #2 team in the world. So you have to give them their due and you have to say respect. But it was also very clear they had changed a lot of things. They'd got rid of that delusional fucking notion of Electronic ever being an IGL. Good job. They cut Flamey from the roster because this idea of playing bit on like 1 or 2 maps was holding his development back. Anyone want Flamey back? I noticed all the dickheads talking about me on Reddit today. Not one of them is saying, and he was wrong about Flamey. Nah, right about that. So I know nothing about Counterstrike, but I know enough that Flamey was shit, and you're not going to challenge your own preconceptions about my opinion. It was also clear to me that Simple was way more vocal at this tournament than he usually is. I'm not saying Simple isn't vocal. I'm not saying he doesn't have his input. He's the #1 team in the world. Looked to me like he was actually doing some mid-round calls based on how parts were moving around the map. I watched every Na'Vi game. Every one. And so the other thing is, clearly as well, they've improved on things like time management. Their tactics were different. You could see that. So how was I wrong? There's this recurring thing that really just, it's not even that it annoys me anymore, guys. It's just fucking boring. It's just tedious. And this is how it goes. Thing is true at time. I say thing is true at time. Thing ceases to be true in future. People come out and say thing that was true at time was wrong because now future is present. No, you people need to fucking have serious, deep therapy. Maybe some sort of medicine, because time is linear. Something can be right then, and if it changes, it doesn't suddenly become wrong in the past. It doesn't work like that. Time doesn't work like that. You know, development doesn't work like that. And so to read it today, Simple said, and you'll notice quite crucially some of the things he left out. Simple in a clip said, Richard Lewis said that he didn't think Blade was a very good coach. I had to check if it was the real Richard Lewis. Me and Simple have always enjoyed a very healthy relationship, always been pleasant to each other in person. You know, I'll always make time for the guy. He's been a troubled youth in his past, and he's trying to learn what it's like to be the best player in the world and have a huge spotlight on him. My door's always open. I'm not annoyed at Simple for this. Because the Reddit thread says, Simple's opinion about Richard Lewis. No, it's not. What he says in that is that he couldn't believe it was me expressing that opinion, and that I didn't know how hard Blade worked, and that it was wrong of me to call Blade a clown. Now, the problem with this is,
you notice this part's never mentioned in any of the Twitter replies, any of the Reddit comments, because there's the other thing, Richard. They just selectively leave out the context they don't like, even if it's in the actual tweets.
Yeah,
they leave it out.
Yeah. Now, so first of all, if Simple didn't defend Blade, you know, the timing's funny because, yeah, you're winning now, dickhead. Go win your next trophy, because if it's the perennial Na'Vi false dawn that I've been going through for the past 2 years, I've never called him out for making my predictions look bad. But, you know, we'll wait and see about that. But, you know, he's got to stand up for his team. So I'm not angry about that. You know, I've had better friends to me than Simple say I'm lying or, you know, say I'm wrong or whatever. And I know the game, so I don't get angry about it. Behind the scenes, I'll be like, look, mate, no hard feelings. You do your thing. You know, that's how it goes. That is the game. I know the rules, right? But what he then did, and this isn't even Simple's fault. I'm not angry at Simple about this either. He quoted an inaccurate report of cybersport.ru where they ran an article saying I called Blade a clown on By the Numbers. Me and Duncan both watched the show today, which was very easy to identify because it was the one that was downvoted to 60% likes from deranged CIS fans who had been told we'd call Blade a clown. Of course, can't watch or even understand, probably in some cases, even if they did watch it. Yeah, whether or not we did call him a clown, because I imagine many of the people who downvoted it and left abusive messages in Cyrillic don't even speak fucking English. So we watched the video, we watched the clip. Duncan watched it, I watched it. We didn't call Blade a clown.
I even asked my Discord, I said, does anyone remember this? Like, genuinely, no one said they remembered it.
And so Simple has been lied to by media in his region, right? It's not his fault he thinks that. He's in a stage where he probably trusts at face value the reporting he reads. A lot of people make that mistake.
Yes.
So can't be angry for him about that. It's not his lie. He didn't fabricate it whole cloth. He's repeating a lie that was told to him. So again, no hard feelings from me. But unfortunately, what's happened now is because of Simple's platform, now the lie gets regurgitated and regurgitated. So go watch the episode yourself. It was 148. It's not there, what people are claiming. What was there was after a load of fucking headlines about me were generated. I took 4 screenshots of the headlines about how dare Richard Lewis have an opinion about Na'Vi when they just finished 9th to fucking 12th at ESL Pro League. And I did a tweet saying CIS region sells out of clown makeup. But that's not aimed at Blade. That's aimed at every fucking loser in the Na'Vi Defense Force who thinks this org is above is above being criticized. It's above criticism. They're absolutely not. They're like any other team. I'm sick and tired of hearing about fabrications, about how I hate them specifically when, You can go. I can produce loads of video evidence of me saying great, glowing things about them and praising them when they win tournaments. I hate people saying I hate Russians or the CIS region or the bulk, whatever it is. Right? Go and look at me. Who was the guy bigging up Gambit? Who's the guy who's like using his platform to talk about how Spirit deserve more respect and talking about Virtus Pro and how outrageous it is that people are calling Yakindar a cheater and stuff like this? Don't throw that shit on me because it just doesn't fucking hold up to any scrutiny. And if you are repeating that, you are literally delusional, not figuratively, literally delusional. You have crafted a fabrication in your mind and you are sick. And I'm not playing with these sick people anymore because I try and just ignore it and think it'll slide off. No, we're going to have to start calling out some of these people specifically because they dedicate too much of their fucking demented spare time to crafting these narratives and spreading these lies. So we will be getting to that later. But just for the sake of the drama, there is no drama. Simple can say what he wants anyway. I would never deny him that right. I'm not ashamed to say, what, does Simple know more about the game than me? The best player in the world? I'd fucking hope so. So I don't care about that. It gets a bit ridiculous when you see people who've never worked in the industry, never coached, never managed, never been an analyst, never been broadcast talent, haven't followed the game for as long as me, probably haven't even been as alive in some cases for as long as I've followed Counterstrike. But I don't understand the game, put them in fucking Distinguished Master Guardian, they do. They've got it all fucking figured out.
They also bake in the notion you could never understand it. You could try for another 10 years and you'll never understand. Whatever level you were at in their brain, you're just always at that level. You can never improve somehow. You can never get any insight from famous players or anything, right?
Yeah. So again, I've got nothing against Simple defending his boy. It's not Simple's fault he reported a lie. He should do his research. But I mean, at the end of the day, how many times is a public figure going to read something at face value and get caught out like that? The media across the board, not just in esports, is failing everyone on a daily basis. That's a much bigger problem. And for me, this is just a manufactured drama, a load of nonsense by sad Redditors desperate to try and gain karma by repeating lies that people will upvote.
All the same names as well.
Yeah. Which we'll get on, mate. I'm calling them out by name today. And by the way, if you upvote these people, just know when we get to them, just know you're turning that subreddit into a shithole, and you are enabling and sort of you're becoming a codependent in serious mental illness. Not no joke. I'm talking about people who have made an account a day for 2 years for the purposes of harassing me. We had to start this fucking stream in subscriber only mode because this one person has graduated and now does it on Twitch, and they turn up every day and they post racist abuse and homophobic abuse thinking it's going to get my channel banned. They post fake threads about me on HLTV on newly created accounts. They've been doing this for 2 years because we called them out one time on By the Numbers. They're the people you support when you upvote losers like this. So have a think about yourself. Because if you're someone who goes, the CSGO subreddit is shit, the CSGO subreddit's so bad, you are enabling these people and this type of discourse every time you engage it. And let me tell you, as I was just saying on the stream earlier, Reddit is the worst for this because it rewards flimsy consensus. There's a reason why so many people cannot handle going on Reddit anymore, and they don't do it. You lost Sponge, you lost Henry, you lost this, you lost that, you lost Red Eye. I don't even think Duncan does AMAs anymore. I don't
even post other people's context. I just thought, fuck it. I'm so sick of these clowns.
So at the end of the day, guys, and like I say, we are going to talk about it because I'm sick of these people thinking they can get to me with their shitty little platform and you get 70 karma. Fuck that hellscape of a website, and fuck you deluded losers who spend all day, and I mean all day, camping UQ, downvoting my content, fucking spreading lies about me being in the alt-right. It's an absolute disgrace, by the way, that moderators let these sick cunts do this to everyone. And I mean everyone.
Mods now, listen, they used to be bad before because what they would do before is they would go, is there any way I can sort of slightly find a loophole to not do what I should, or or not ban a person, or let something through? Now, by the way, it's just overt and blatant. And the reason I say that is, I'll give you an example from League of Legends. So it's totally unrelated to the CSGO sub, but it's exactly the behavior Richard's talking about. So I posted it. Well, it wasn't me who posted it, right? I did a talk show recently, one of the shows I appear in League of Legends, and one of the guests on it, right, did an amazing episode. It was all like sort of like meta contextual stuff and like what it means to practice and improve and how his mental state had improved over the years. It had very little to do actually with League of Legends, the game. It was more like, you know, what it's like to be a competitor and how he devolved and stuff. And literally one of the top comments, which the Reddit mods just left up, but it'd still be there right now if you go hours, 20, 50, 60 hours later, right? Loads of upvotes, just goes, when someone said something like, oh, it seems that he's really sort of evolved a lot and improved, someone goes, yeah, why did he cheat on his girlfriend then? What by the way, his girlfriend isn't even in esports as far as I know, Richard. I don't think she's like a famous, she's not like a player, she's not in the idea that is in any way in the public interest. It's even against all the rules these twats set up, which is exactly the reason, by the way, they claim that they banned Richard. Like, it's not that when they do that is like absurd corruption. Because what you're saying there is if I don't like you, they can just do anything they want, basically. There's no rules.
No, but that is the Reddit standard. And unfortunately, as I said, because we've come off the back of I've come off the back of about 5 dramas. You know, not even you've managed that lately, and so you know, I see these people. It's just like it's just a constant stream of misinformation and lies that get upvoted about things I've not said. Because what's the option? Believe some cunt on Reddit with an axe to grind, and half the people don't even click on the accounts of these people. Because if you did, you would see hundreds and hundreds of deranged comments just about me.
They're usually in those threads doing about 50 posts each.
Yeah, I know.
It's just that they're all in your X'd out part. Like what's mad is they post so much that on the one hand they'll hit the wrong note and they'll be the downvoted one at the bottom, but then they hit the right one, like you said, the flimsy consensus. They almost say what a normal idiot thinks. Well, that's not that bad, and then then they get the success and they're off for that one, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's just absurd. Like, you know, again, this isn't one of the main nutters, but there was a guy on there literally saying that I had said that I had said.
Was it that like simple being in game or something?
Which of course I've never said that. Never said that. You go watch the video. I say they might announce, you know, it's like a little positive thing. Simple's been helping with the mid-round calling, or maybe a player might say that. You know, for example, they didn't do an official press release when Electronic was calling on a few maps.
Oh, no.
It was introduced after they lost those maps by Boomich. So players will say these things and reveal.
I think it was Flamey, wasn't it?
By Flamey. Yeah, my bad.
Obviously, Boomich doesn't do the English interviews, does he?
Yeah. So, you know, people will eventually this stuff will come out. And if when you're on top, you want to talk about the changes you've made because it makes you look proactive and positive. But yeah, this is like this drama was just such a it's just such a non-fucking story.
The angle I was on was even worse because basically I shouldn't even have been in this. But what's sad about this, right, is because actually out of a lot of the pro players, I've generally found Simple to be actually a very reasonable individual. Like if I've ever seen someone like Clay, like when he said that thing about the CSPPA never came to that meeting, I've messaged him, he's told me whether they have or not and shown me when I've just asked for small things. Because the thing is, I've met him a number of times in real life. I've seen him back in Team Liquid when he was a Hiko. I've literally had like hours-long chats with him about the game and about things like that. So to me, I thought actually naively, and by the way, this will go to a tangent in a minute about players actually, but as a naive move, Rich, I thought this is easy. I can just squash this on the head. I know the guy. I messaged him. He instantly messaged me back. Now, here's what I didn't know actually, to be fair, that I'll add in this context, and I'm doing this to be fair, not so that dickheads can go, as a stan, that now makes it all fine what he did. Basically, it turns out he was streaming at the same time. And what I think he's done, Richard, is because he's streaming and literally playing the game in matchmaking at the same time, or FPL, he's basically done that thing where I think he's like looking one eye for half a minute and then he's quickly writing something to me and then he's going back to the game and he's quickly writing something to me and so he's not reading what I'm writing. And basically I just told him straight up, like, mate, you look silly right now. Like, look, Richard didn't say what you're thinking. You've just believed what some dog shit CIS website said. He never called him a clown. And even though I've written he's never called him a clown, he basically just sort of implied like that you can't call Blade a clown. And I'm like, look, you're not listening. Like, he isn't calling him a clown. And so basically I couldn't handle it. So I just basically said, like, if that's bit, you're not even going to read what I write. Like, you're just gonna fucking tell me what literally what I'm telling you is incorrect factually. We've checked it. I just said, just fuck off. And basically, you know, we had a small back and forth. It's all in DMs. Now, then I made a tweet, right? This is one of the things that's driving me nuts because it, like you say, it's not even that it like hurts my feelings. It's just boring. It's just boring to write something and have someone read the sentence and go, I'm just going to ignore all the words in this sentence and just make up what it says. So I do a tweet where I say, like, Simple's just believing anything he reads on CIS websites, right? Obvious implication, he's read something incorrect, right? No. Everyone just goes, but he just defended his coach. Why the fuck would that have to do with the CIS website? What would the relevance be? Now, why would his coach be what he read on a CIS website? So obviously, right, I'm referring to when he said that Raid is a clown, right? Which Richard never said. We've looked for the evidence. The best we can find is this tweet that we believe people have misrepresented because technically Blade's within one of the photos on the front page screenshot of it, right?
I mean, you would have to
tenuous as it gets, isn't it? Yeah.
You would have to bend time and fucking space to think that way, yeah.
In the reply tweet, I put in the chain after saying that, like, it's so sad that the best player, I don't even actually name check him, by the way, I just allude to it, just say the best CSGO player, just apparently repeat anything he sees on dogshit websites. I then say, and he just doesn't get it, like he refuses to accept that he's wrong. Now, by the way, in that detail there, logically, you fucking half-wits, how would he be able to refuse he is wrong in the video which spurred this whole drama? I can't go back in time and insert myself into a piece of content and interview him like some VR experience. That already happened. So what that implies in the second tweet, if you understand even a modicum of English language, which at this point is almost PhD level, being able to comprehend what a sentence was and repeat it back to the person. What it would imply there is I must have had some back and forth with him between the tweets and between his thing, right? So what people don't know is because they can't read, they ignore all of that. And then I've seen now, again, hundreds of people, the angle goes like this, Richard. Wow, Thorin's acting like Simple, just saying that Richard doesn't know about the game as though like he's all offended and shit. You don't know what's in my DMs, you stupid fucking cretin. You can't even literally comprehend what we might have said. I've sort of given you a back and forth just that, you know, at the end, we didn't part amicably because he basically just didn't want to talk about it. He's probably triggered and he's playing the game, right? So he should have said, by the way, I'm a bit busy at the moment. So, but he didn't do that, whatever. I understand people fly off the handle. But the idea that people who haven't read a private conversation are going to go, well, it can't possibly exist. Because there's another thing I'm really bored with, by the way. It's the idea that I've worked in esports for 20 years, right? I've had the most straight fire interviews, content, gems. I just drop. Any of my patrons can say this. If you just want those donate discussions, I just drop gems from behind the scenes all day long because I know people won't pick up on them. They won't go and find it. It's somewhat actually safe to say them, right? Do you think I just get all those by guessing? You do, because you're fucking imbeciles. Because the only way you can cope with the idea that my life might be better than yours is you have to put me on your level. You have to believe that I'm like you. I can only watch a stream of Simple. I can only read an interview of Simple. I can only watch him play on stream. And everything else I have to guess at. No, as I say, I've talked to these players. That's the reason why I've even given this away in the past. I don't accidentally get to those straight fire scrapbook episodes. I tend to invite on people I've talked with for hours and hours about Counterstrike, and then I just tee them up all day long with alley-oops like, oh, what about this style? And then they just fucking give amazing stories. Like, the point is, I have unbelievable connections and access within the Counter-Strike space. Yeah. Even in other games, I'm pretty good, but I wouldn't claim to have as extensive. So the idea that every fan, every time goes, well, essentially, unless you just show me the logs, I just think that you're like me making it all up. It's like, this is just boring, mate. This is just getting really boring right now. It's really boring. Where's the drama in that?
I know. Well, it's what I mean. I don't understand what the drama is, and it's just like what's ridiculous is it's the same group of people that drive it each time on that subreddit, and so I'm just gonna name them now because at the end of the day, I'm beyond this point of where because of some mad fucking rule about like, you know, a Redditor's opinion is sacrosanct, but they can just fucking fabricate stuff about me all day, every day, like actively posting nonsense. Like the big ones that drive every conversation about by the numbers, the ones that drive any conversation about me privately. And again, I say this, if you guys hate me so much, here's what you do. Don't make up your fucking diseased little stories about me. Don't make up your lies about me. Don't be in there every thread posting 50 posts about me and all of this. Here's what you do. Go support somebody else who you can believe will be better than me. I welcome it. I want my watch over this shit business to be over so badly. You have no idea. I want to go and do cool stuff. But people always keep coming back to the OG. Richard, someone owes me money. Richard, this org's lied to me. Richard, I'm in a bad contract. Richard, what are you going to do about this? Richard, this organization's lying. You all want me to fucking help when times are bad. Yeah, I can't even just get, just a thread that just isn't full of vitriolic hatred about things that never fucking happened. Because
if someone made a thread tomorrow and it was just the classic one they've done for every caster, Richard Lewis appreciation thread, I guarantee you guys, within literally 15 minutes, it would already generate into like, but what about this? And then what about when he did this? And then here's another thing. And it would be a mess instantly. You're never allowed your flowers in esports.
Yeah. So I'll say the first guy, and this guy should be absolutely banned from the subreddit. What he said about me and Duncan is absolutely insane. It goes beyond, because this is the other thing you guys don't understand. They hate disagreement. No. What I hate is this. This guy, Mike Rice Vampire Hunter, without the A. Mike Rice Vampire Hunter, VMPIRE. This guy, the fact that people upvote this guy is outrageous. His comments for about 2 years are all how I am part of Steve Bannon's recruitment drive into gaming to train an incel right-wing terrorist army. He says this unironically. He says this on that subreddit repeatedly, and people upvote that, right? If you upvote that guy, you are supporting the worst type of people on the fucking internet. I shouldn't have to read that fucking smear about myself, and other people who might not know me shouldn't have to read that and shouldn't have to believe it. And you can't rely on fucking moderators to clean it up. So we'll have him. We'll have the other fucking stalwart from the show, Rhea Feeder, Too Strong, with the original
mentally ill of all time.
Yeah, a true certified hood classic of lunacy. He even wears the mark of the originally ridiculously ill people, which was the Mouse Sports logo. Yep. You may remember Radiant Sun, a man so mentally deranged he pretended to be a Patreon, and then when I said, "Listen, mate, please just I'll give you the money back. Tell me who you are," and him going, "No, I like to pay you money so I control your input." He leaked those DMs, and me just saying, "Look, I don't want to make sure that you support. It's not for you. I think you're a cunt." He leaked those DMs as if that makes me look bad, and then it turned out he was just lying the whole time. Never was a patron. That was his little edging moment. Same guy lying on Reddit. I have been offered thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to post comments because I have 30,000 karma. You're upvoting dickheads like that. Your support. These people are sick. Why on earth would you fucking make them worse? Why on earth would you encourage that? It's this is shame on you, not shame on them, by the way. Yeah. Shame on all of you.
You guys give these guys fame. Like the Ray Feeder guy, by the way, plays you motherfuckers so disgracefully. You'd think it was DJ Khaled bringing out his newest albums. Because what's ridiculous is he always does this mad angle where he'll pretend he's not a guy who's obsessed with us and he's just a guy giving a comment like, well, the thing is, I have noticed. He'll kind of use his phrasing as all he's just discovered the topic and he's just given a thought now. No, this is a person who is in every fucking thread saying the same thing. I've always said this. The reason why you know it's a moderation problem, it's not that there's just a million nutters. Because everyone will go, there's a lot of bad fans. I'm telling you right now, 10 accounts banned, obviously ignoring that they'd make new accounts. If you could ban these 10 people, IP ban them permanently off the internet, you would take 90% of this toxic shit off. I'm not even joking. That would be it's like some mad Pareto distribution from these people.
Like you say, the Rhea Feeder Too Strong guy makes dozens of comments every day. Go look how many are about me. Just check it out yourselves, guys. I'm not making this shit up, but enough's enough. It's got to fucking stop. And because I'm banned off Reddit, hey, he's made the burner account, he's made an alt. I can't even correct you in that arena, can I? How convenient. So you're just free.
Like I said on Twitter, mate, why is that an L? He's made an account because he was banned otherwise.
I know.
Does my point stand? I found your account though, so I win. Why do you win? Yeah. Are you fans starting to understand the level of thinking these people are on?
Yeah, so you got that. Then there's the other guy who's really took a turn for the worst lately, because it was a guy called Oklar, OKLAR, and what this guy does.
Pastralis sees it, mate. That's what I always think when I see his fucking.
Yeah, I know, right? That guy, he used to post so many hate comments about me and Duncan. he would on a monthly basis delete his comments because it was too much of a window into mental illness to leave them up all there. He would make dozens a day and he would delete them, and there's huge gaps in his posting history, and that's what he was doing, right? This guy, and now he's just even given up on that. He's just given up on that. It is like going to the typewriter and saying all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy with his cunt. He is so fucking far gone. During the three clicks Philip drama, he was posting over and over again, it's so great to see Richard Lewis brought down. It's so like, mate, your life is empty. Your life is empty and your brain is fucked. It's just that simple. And so you guys, when you're caught up in a drama, what you're doing, you see, is you go, he said something bad about the person I don't like, I'll upvote that. Like I say, shame on you people for encouraging these absolute jabbering. Like they're fools to themselves, and you're encouraging it. You're encouraging it. You're making them think that, you know, them doing this is okay. And keep in mind, by the way, as I've said, there will be one guy in every thread about me every time. And what's mental is you guys upvote him every time, right? Who for 2 years has been trolling with a variety of anti-Semitic usernames. You seem to like those guys. What a great community. Calls me Jewish all the time because
oh yeah, I saw this. He kept doing that. As far as I can tell, he genuinely is like almost confusing you with the Richard Lewis from Curb Your Enthusiasm show.
No, but what he does is he creates an anti-Semitic name, says I run the esports industry because I'm Jewish, and then throws out a bunch of anti-Semitic abuse, which some people on the subreddit think's perfectly reasonable. The other thing he does is he does flat Earth posts to troll people. He's got the gamut. He thinks he's a sophisticated troll. 10 years ago, this cunt would have been abused off 4chan. He's, you know, and that wasn't even the vintage era of 4chan. You know, so this guy now has graduated to coming to my Twitch and posting racial abuse, homophobic slurs, and he does it every day, and he'll have done it this stream. And you guys are upvoting that, and you're encouraging that. It's like, guys, the drama ain't worth it. I said on my own stream, it is a disgrace that on the day Tarek was benched, 300 comments showing appreciation for Tarek, 750 comments flaming me on a separate thread. I should not be the most talked about thing in Counterstrike on any given day. It's pathetic, guys. It is so pathetic. And as I said, people are going, yes, he's cracking. Look how angry he is. I'm not cracking. I'm bored of it, guys. I'm just bored of it. I am just bored of it. Ask yourselves, what are you going to talk about when me and Duncan go and do something else? What will fill that time? What will fill that void? Whatever will you criticize?
I'll tell you what'll happen, mate, and it's going to be really sad, which is if people like Pimp think it's bad now, mate, wait till we're just gone. Wait till you are now the most toxic person in their mind. Like, you'll just get all of our comments. You'll inherit all these people, essentially, mate. It's actually sad. Like, in some ways, there's an angle. A lot of idiots in this industry, I'm not including Pimp in that sense. A lot of people don't understand that we essentially are like the fucking flak for the missiles, like...
Yeah, with the lightning rods.
Yeah.
With the lightning rods.
So when we're gone, it'll be people making perfectly reasonable statements. We're just getting bodied all over the place.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, you can already see how it is starting to happen to Pimp, right? And he's like the next guy that gets served up on the chopping block. You have got to fucking start assessing what you do with your time. Right? Because here's the thing. You always go, how does Richard Lewis give energy to this? Oh, here he is, another segment of Petty Grievance on his podcast. I can't watch the podcast. Another mad cunt, by the way. I won't even bother naming him. He's not that egregious. Claims to be a fan, just a hate watcher like all the other bell ends. Yeah, I can't even stand the podcast anymore. Can't even stand it. All they do is moan about this stuff. Right.
Imagine hate watching 200 episodes or whatever it is. Like,
what makes less sense to do with your spare time, right? I'm on the clock now. I'm making money. I'm talking about whatever the fuck I want to talk about with my friends, talking to an audience of people who are 90% receptive, right? And I'm making money for it. And I get to make a living like this. I don't have to do a grind, don't have to do a 9 to 5, right? So
way better than that if you've ever done those jobs. So I always think that, mate.
That's how I'm spending my time. How these cunts are spending their time is their spare time when they're working jobs they hate or should be studying a bit harder, get their grades up, you know, whatever it is, right? You know, or maybe even worse, their weekends, right? Their actual free time. You're spending it posting fastidiously across all of social media. First, you have to hate watch the content to find out what to be angry about.
Yep.
Thanks for the click, dickhead. Then you fucking have to post about it endlessly, and then you spend your time trying to convince anyone who argues with you. Well, he didn't even say that, mate. He doesn't even think that. You don't even watch his content regularly. You can't, or you couldn't possibly believe it. You then spend all day arguing with them, right? So don't tell me, right, like I'm the one that's losing in this equation, right? You're the one wasting your time. You're the one wasting your time. Not me. I'm not wasting my time. Like, you know, I'm making bank doing this. I do whatever the fuck I want. You can't.
Yeah, you just know
so
there is
crazy.
some fucking like 6-year-old kid somewhere who's just sat in his room dejected, just going, maybe Dad will be free later. And then he's going, Dad, can we watch that thing like we said we're going to? Look,
No.
I'm almost finished. I've got to get this thread right. I've almost taken him. Listen, so I've almost taken him down. So if you just give me a bit, like another half an hour, it's like, but you always say that. Look, I fucking don't make me downvote you in real life.
I know, exactly, mate. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So look, we've talked about it for a while, like how the Reddit communities are fucking, you know, travesty, and it's driven all the good people out. Like, you need to start looking. If you put it this way, if you feel comfortable with the fact that you drove Sponge out because he had some opinions you don't like, he's now half of the best commentary duo we've got in Counterstrike, and he'll never interact with you on Reddit ever again. If you think that driving him out and upvoting one of the lunatics, and I mean literal lunatics, and putting them on a pedestal and giving them karma and validating everything, if you think that's a good fucking trade-off, fuck that. Burn all of that down. That's garbage, mate. That's absolute shit. So just on this point, just to wrap it up, and then we'll move on to the other fucking drama, is there is no drama between me and Simple. I don't think there'll ever be beef between me and Simple. Simple's got to defend his man Blade. Makes sense. He's misquoted an article that he was lied to about. He should have listened to Duncan. Duncan was trying to help, but I wouldn't even reach out to Simple to tell him. I know the game. I'm all right with that, right? All of the other people complaining about it, trying to make something out of nothing. I was right about Blade. I was right about Na'Vi. And we'll see how these long-term changes are and whether they stick or whether this is another false dawn. Because it's all great chirping about how brilliant you are when you're on top. It's a long fucking way down. And I wouldn't even say Na'Vi are on top right now. Beating Gambit one time out of all the times they've played them doesn't mean they are ready to supplant Gambit as the #1 team in the world. Beating Heroic one time doesn't mean you're the #2 team in the world. Right? It's a legit run. Do it next time. And the time after that. And the time after that. And if you make it to like 3 or 4 consecutive finals like your boys Gambit have, let's fucking talk then. Let's talk then. They've set themselves up for a fall here. And I actually hope they do live up to those promises. Like most pundits who just enjoy watching good Counter-Strike. But whatever. This was the most pathetic manufactured attempt at a drama. And sorry, guys, I'm not biting. And if you're happy being fucking manipulated by fucking dumb Redditors with too much time on their hand because, oh, he's been around for 6 years and posting about Richard Lewis for free and he's got 30,000 karma, you people are idiots. You're morons. You're dancing to their tune. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, one thing I would just say to wrap that up, by the way, is like one of the issues I have with this is that this has actually changed my mind completely because I rarely do this, right? Normally what I do is if I generally have a rule, you say something publicly, well, guess what? That's fair game now. So I'll say my shit publicly. And then every dickhead fan, right, even though they'd love it if someone said something about me who was a pro player and go, ha, 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 if I say it, they go, can't you handle this behind closed doors? Why don't you just reach out to him? Because basically they're just fans of him and they just don't want him to be upset, right? So when I try doing this, with somewhere I'm thinking, right, I could just squash this. Let's not even have a public drama. Then get it thrown back in my face. It's like I've had this with a couple of times. I've done this in private with pro players. Here's the problem. It's the other way around, guys. They're the ones who've ruined it by making themselves go first publicly. Because when they go first publicly, it becomes that dreaded fucking word that has ruined the internet, optics. And now because they've said something publicly, they don't want to privately like figure it out. Always maybe I was wrong. Oh, I retract what I said. They can't ever do that. They can't ever go back. So unfortunately, like I've realized with pro players, you're just gonna have to listen. I always did this on desks anyway, but I'm back to my worst now. If you think when you watch like fucking old school Alan Hansen, you watch Roy Keane now, fucking hell, they give it a bit. Like I'm them and worse. Because I knew you motherfuckers behind closed doors before you size your egos. So if you play shit, I'm just going to fucking go in like I did when Smiths was shit, when fucking Nico the breadhead was ruining all this. You're just going to get that work. So there you go. I'll give you a chance. I tried to extend my hand across the aisle, as it were.
Nah, I mean, I just gave up on players now because it's like what you find is after almost 2 decades of helping them, it's just a very one-way street. It's just a very one-way
I found
street.
that with device, mate.
Yeah.
Essentially, what I found was, so the whole time you thought I was just your stan.
Yeah,
You really thought that. You didn't think it was about the game and fucking being like, Jesus Christ, this is mental. This is actually mental.
Yeah. But like, let me tell you how bad it's got with Reddit lately. There are more reasonable discussions about me, not so much you, but about me on HLTV forums.
Man alive.
Right? Now, keep in mind, for many of the old school users on HLTV, I'm the guy that supposedly single-handed killed 1.6, made it so it wasn't in the CGS. All lies, of course, more lies. People have been lying about me for a long, long fucking time. And also, used to run a rival website, massive cunt, got accused of refusing HLTV press credentials at an event, also didn't happen, massive lie, a lie they printed, right? You know, that was how it was back then. Those guys were going, yeah, like 50% of the comments on HLTV are people going, yeah, I mean, like, they were bad, their tactics were bad, Blade was bad, they've won this event, like, what's the problem? Like, so when Reddit is more egregiously ridiculous and delusional than HLTV, where probably about 20% of the users are deliberately trolling, another 20% are just educationally subnormal. You know, like, what does that tell you, guys? Like, the CS community's had all sorts of problems. That subreddit is a dumpster fire now. It used to be one of the best esports subreddits. It's absolute garbage now. It's absolute garbage. And, you know, it's no wonder community members don't even want to interact with it. And I don't want to hear the fucking comment either. Oh, but how can 1.3 million people... Consensus. The concept of consensus, dickheads. Look it up. Right. CSPPA. Now, the CSPPA obviously has had their General Assembly that we were talking about recently, which is they made a ton of changes. So a bunch of players... were swapped out on the board and they brought in some new guys. We talked about that, but another change happened the day after the episode we talked about it. Mads Orland, the guy who set it up, left. He's pieced out. So this is like, he's going to stay on in an advisory capacity, but this is like a wild sort of development. It almost doesn't make sense because of how the whole premise of it was. They were bringing in this ball-busting unionization, you know, iconoclastic, divisive figure from Danish sports to fix player rights. And he's been there like 2 years and then gone, nah, fuck this. And he's gone. And so we don't even know who's going to replace him as the head of the CSPPA yet. We have no idea. And it looks to me like, I don't know. If I was guessing, I don't think this is great news for the future of the CSPPA. I think Mads Orland was the guy. I know for a fact from talking to people, he was a big proponent of the strike action they took for the blast over the voice comms. He was one of the guys who was like mobilizing that and moving that behind the scenes. He's always been the guy that's spoken vocally about all the initiatives they've done. I think losing him is a big blow for the CSPPA.
Oh, I would also add in as well, like, yeah, because first of all, the thing that people might not understand is, remember, Richard was literally on the brink of making what the CSPPA became. He looked through all the legal stuff, he went through all the avenues of it, and the point is, the reason it didn't happen is it's very fucking hard to make them run. By the way, the real irony of all this, if you thought CSPPA was a great concept, is the main thing that seems to be fucking them, which is we're going to get to with the drama in a minute, is how do you generate the money to have really fucking talented people who know the space inside and out? In the case of Mads Orland, have like prior experience, which by the way is worth potentially like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. That's the level you're on. How are you going to get those people to work just for free or for no reason or to put in countless? You're not. In a normal union, you pay your dues and they get some of the money from that. In this particular case, they tried to get the tournament organisers to pay them and they were going to go from that, right? So when someone like that leaves, what are you left with? Like, there's no big name coming in. And beyond that, most people, even though they all think like, we need union action, you don't know what a union is. You don't know what a union does. Like, that's why we have top players who are on that board of people going like, well, we couldn't have succeeded, so what would the point have been? It's like, that's not the way a union works. You don't go, oh, should we bother striking? Well, I don't know. Is it guaranteed that they'll give us the money? Yeah, good point. Don't bother then. Tools down. Just fucking go back.
I know.
Doesn't even make sense.
So, you know, for me, like, you lose a guy that understands a lot of the high-level stuff that we are going to need to have. Now, obviously, this isn't necessarily to praise the guy one way or the other. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with some of the actions he's taken around football, for example. You know, I wrote about this in an article that some people have described as terrible journalism, despite it being completely accurate. But Mads Oland basically he initiated. There was a dispute over a sponsorship for a player, and because the national team has a sponsor, they didn't want the people who represented the national team, which remember is like an almost arbitrary thing. You get called up for it. You know, they're not paying your salary week in, week out. A player had another deal with a conflicting sponsor, and so Mads Oland did a strike because he said players should have image rights. You shouldn't get to just dictate that just by virtue of being the national team. And this led to an incident where they literally had to play a bunch of ringers, you know, accountants and fucking, you know, people who just play, you know, at a semi-professional level, you know, like Dick Stacey. So always it's always
callback. It's a good callback.
It's always there. So you know, I understand that he's a divisive figure, right? Like, I get it totally. So I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, you know, but whatever. But the guy understands the high-level stuff that we are going to rapidly approach in esports. We still haven't had the big image rights showdown, guys. We still haven't had that. Players sign their image rights away as if it was nothing. And it's in every contract. And because there's a bunch of lawyers now go, oh, it's just a boilerplate contract. It's just standard language. I guarantee you it ain't just standard language. You know, well, it probably is if you can get away with it. But I guarantee no player should think of it as just standard language or just a standard clause. You know how I know that? Because I'm watching fucking players like Gareth Bale and Cristiano Ronaldo talk about how wrong it is that their fucking images are plastered all over video games and they don't get anything for that because the club sells the license and they've given away their image rights, you know. So even mainstream sports is going to have a showdown about image rights. We should be getting ahead of it in esports for sure. But, you know, we're not. And Mads Oland is a guy who I think could probably fight that fight on behalf of the players and fight it astutely and fight it well. I think he understands what's at stake and, you know, what's at play. So I don't think it's great that the CSPPA have him leave. What? And there's not even a replacement lined up. No one's going to temporarily take the reins. We don't even know who that is or what their background is or what the long-term plans are. You've also swapped out almost the entirety of your player board at the same time. Nah, I think the CSPPA is rapidly going down in flames, mate. And I think it's and certainly if it isn't, that's the perception. I also did a lot of interviewing of members ahead of this segment because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. I don't like to get things wrong. Even though I'm sure it will have happened from time to time. It is a podcast. It's largely unscripted. You shouldn't hold it to the same standard as my print work, but I still try and be 100% accurate. You know, I strive for that. Obviously, it's not going to happen when you know, having to pull 3 hours of content together. But I did hear as well behind the scenes, apparently subs are now a thing. You know, players paying their subs.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, apparently that was something that was discussed at the General Assembly.
That's potentially a good thing.
But the problem you've also got is I asked around and there's not a lot of confidence in the union anymore or its capacity. So it's like you've left it sort of too late in the day. Yes. So I think some of the players don't think this is the one to get it done now. There have been some players even talking about maybe making a breakaway union or a union that works like separately for the tier 2 people on the basis
some of the big
feel...
names are actually concerned also. This makes sense that they've been burned, that their image has been used, that they've been associated, that they've had loads of fans like, why aren't you doing anything? Go on the board. I know some of those guys, like, it's not even that they don't like the concept. They just feel like, I don't want to just feel like a fool 4 times in a row and when I didn't really do anything, you know.
Yeah, and the prevailing sentiment for a lot of these players was like, even the ones who sort of were in it, there's not a lot of true believers anymore.
Sure.
The ones who were holding firm on it are like, look, it's the one we've got. It's the union we've got. And if we go and make another one,
that tends to be the other sentiment.
Yeah,
it's sort of like we got this going in the first place. We can't fucking just start over. Yeah, there's a lot of people think that as well.
So, you know, look, we need a player union. I just don't know why the CSPPA has become the thing it has been, where, you know, I thought your tweet was really a good summary of all of the problems with it. You know, like, I'll actually read it. Let me just, okay, Here you go. So this is what Duncan said on Twitter. And like, if you just take this as a bunch of bullet points about the CSPPA's kind of like major moments, you start questioning what have they really achieved and what is their legacy and how good is it? So here's all you need to know about CSPPA. I personally boycotted working with ESL until they name and fire the people who stole the EPL slots. By the way, that's never anything that's getting resolved. Those teams got fucked out of slots they owed, which had a monetary value associated with them. They received zero compensation from ESL, and ESL's basis was, we just have to change our business to survive. Yeah. Right? That's what they all got.
Part of it spurred by things like Flashpoint, where they wanted to have all the teams, of course. Yeah,
of
course.
The CSPPA said nothing, did nothing. This is all true. None of their players or reps ever reached out to me. It's a protection racket. Now, also, just on that point, one of the things I've seen, and this comes from Sir Scoots and Chris J and other people who've spoken out about it, is they're going, there's nothing we could have done because it was never presented as a negotiating point. And that just seems so startlingly like short-sighted and disingenuous to me, because when you have leverage, right? Someone comes to you and says, "I want this, and I want it done this way, on this timetable, for this amount, whatever it is," and you go, "Well, I don't want that, and I've got this leverage over here. So what's the compromise?" Not everything that ends up on the table starts on the table.
Of course.
This is the basic principle of negotiation. So it is completely disingenuous to say ESL said it was non-negotiable. Okay, what if none of our players agree to play in the league? Is it fucking negotiable now, dickhead? I imagine it might be. Or can we work out some sort of severance package or parachute payments for these orgs? At least give them some money, because you literally folded some of these orgs. No, never talked about. So the bottom line is, what is a union? If a union says, well, they didn't let us negotiate that, well, that's not the unions I know. And again, I've got the very European conception of unions. They have a much more negative connotation in America. It's like that's bullshit. That's not good enough, frankly. This was something, I mean, like, you could have put a press release out. You could have put, like, at least disavow of it. Say something negative. But instead, you were on record as saying ESL's the best TO and they look after the players. They didn't look after the players who they fucking robbed of a slot.
I think the timing was even days before as well.
Of course,
this is a historic announcement we made. Because that was basically what I got. The one time I ever got a back channel, it was like that, Richard. They go, but how could we fight for the EPL slots? You know how incredible it is that we even got a TO to agree to a deal. They've actually publicized, like, we can't endanger that. And I was like, what are you talking about? So if they do a deal with you, they just get to skate by. That's why I call it a protection racket, because I've noticed this trend. The ones that pay and do the deals with you, they're apparently off the table to criticize, not even do anything to. Yep. But the ones that won't pay you, you'll just never shut the fuck up talking about them. You'll even point out the most nitpicky things about them, and you not even something, by the way, you do in strike action with that sense, just to criticize them. So you can criticize people you can't make do things. That's absolutely apparent. The question is, why do you do it with certain people and not with others? Obviously,
I haven't seen a fucking sort of declaration or statement age so badly since probably like Neville Chamberlain's piece in Our Time. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, literally in a matter of days, they completely fucked over a bunch of teams after the CSPPA was on record saying ESL does right by the teams and looks after the players, and mental. But like, you have to at least be critical of that. Like, even for appearance's sake, I don't care what you have to do. If you have to go to fucking ESL and talk to their PR guy with your PR guy and say, listen, we need to pretend we're outraged about this. Like all them motherfuckers who pretend they're outraged by the Qatari World Cup. But yeah, we'll still be there.
Of course.
We'll still do business with you. We don't support this. Wink, wink, wink. We're woke. We're the good guys. You can do that, but you didn't do that. You didn't even choose to give the illusion of it. And then your spokespeople literally just went, meh, what can you do? Meanwhile, we had historic, unprecedented strike action over the fact that, like, maybe Moses might take one of your fucking strats away. How did that work out, by the way? Surely a time we busted out all of the turbo strats he heard by listening in on your comms. It was when his fucking job was on the line. Nah, I never did, though. It never happened. Maybe that was a perhaps unrealistic thing that you were just a bit worked up about because you knew it was a way to mobilise players and actually make it look like you weren't just a bunch of paper tigers, and also scare the blast into thinking, yeah, we should probably pay these guys some money or at least keep them sweet publicly if we've all got to play nice in this sandpit. What a joke. So anyway, Duncan's tweets continue because it was a four-parter. It was an epic one. The cost to me, I gave up writing work and will never be able to work a major ESL might host or any of their premier events. Makes you wonder if CSPPA didn't want to jeopardize their then recently signed historic, in air quotes, deal with ESL. There's a rumor player comms got leaked. Let's delay a game at Blast for hours. ESL takes away the slots of teams who earned them in their league. The CSPPA sleeps. The head of the CSPPA left the organization, so if we're using people leaving or quitting an organization to cast aspersions on those organizations, let's go ahead and factor that in. So for that last part, did you mean like, you know, like if Mads Oland leaves, like the sin leaves
that
with him?
part is basically a reference to what Scoops did. Because here's the thing, me and Scoops don't tweet at each other. We basically just react to what each other's saying as part of like a fucking public discourse. It's sort of a polemic approach, right? Yeah. So he'd made a tweet where his new approach now, before he would just imply I'm on the payroll and I'm a scumbag, blah, whatever, you know. Now his new role is, well, if I've left and I said they lied to me, well then by proxy, everything they ever said was a lie. Therefore, like, and the fact that I've left is sort of like a vote of no confidence, right? So what I was making the point of is, if you're going to bring up the idea that Flashpoint must be full of shit because I left and I was a big head, the motherfucking direct head of the CSPPA just left me. I don't know if I'd be pulling that card right now. It's got a fucking like booby trap attached to it, hasn't it? Like, that's such a bad angle to take.
Yeah. So, I mean...
and by the way, I even left Flashpoint and said, you know, I think the concept was great. A lot of the things. It's not like I said it was overwhelmingly bad in every regard, did I?
So we had the reason the CSPPA came into sharp focus again is Scoots, who isn't the head of the CSPPA that some people think he is, and certainly, you know, I'll say I wish he would just own, like, or publicly clarify what his involvement is at this point, because
he says he's an unpaid advisor or something.
Yeah, so he's an unpaid advisor, but he also
didn't you contact CSPPA? They said something like he doesn't speak for us or something bizarre.
Yeah,
I don't really understand, you know.
It was more like his opinions are sort of his own, which is fair.
Right.
You know, everyone says that in every company.
Of course. In the same way as mine were for Flashpoint,
but they also did say he's on the advisory board, so it's like, you know, there's a public perception that Scott is the voice of the CSPPA, and like that this isn't, you know, it's unfair, right? But also, I will add, if you're going to constantly talk about this particular topic, people will make assumptions because people are on the internet, and that's how that goes. So Monte Cristo did an interview with HLTV where he was talking about, you know, Flashpoint and how important it was to at least have one TO in NA, and maybe that could rekindle, you know, once the COVID pandemic stuff's over, maybe that could rekindle NA. Maybe it would be certainly on a grassroots level, but, you know, at least there's an event there. It's there geographically. You can travel to it. And, you know, Monty stayed on even though Duncan's left Flashpoint, and, you know, Monty's a friend. So just for disclosure.
We don't know, by the way. It's because we have different philosophies, basically. Like, I personally have seen, and I'm like on some Atlas Shrugged shit, mate. I just can't work with incompetent people. I don't think they can ever succeed. Monty's still, I would say, this is where we differ. I would say he's a bit of a naive optimist, as you've probably seen if you watch some of the Four Horsemen episodes. Yeah. His mentality still is like, if there's any good in people, you can sort of turn them Vader style, and, you know, you can work within the organization and make it work. Like, again, we're just at a philosophical difference on that.
Yeah, I get it. And you know, nothing wrong with that, right? Philosophical difference. Imagine having philosophical differences and still being able to work together. Crazy, right?
Even friends.
Yeah, and be friends. Yeah, exactly. What a time we herald from. But anyway, so Monty, that interview went out on HLTV, and Scoot did a quote tweet of the article from the HLTV Twitter account where he said, "You owe the players hundreds of thousands of dollars. Pay that before you preach about how you are needed in this scene, or how needed you are in this scene." And I was like, really? Because, you know, when we crossed this bridge before, I looked into it, and Flashpoint had all paid their money out, and apparently, by all accounts, were very, very timely in their payouts, and players weren't owed any prize money. So I was like wondering, what could this be? And I went.
Yeah, same. I actually thought to myself, fuck, maybe from Flashpoint 2, was there some teams that didn't get it or something? I started reaching out to people, mate. Like, because the key thing to me was the phrasing the players didn't get it. Like, I would understand if it was like you wore adept to CSPPA. I go, okay, right, I know what that is then. Okay, you bring up a thing from the past. By the way, technically true, they didn't pay that contract. They were, as CSPPA claimed, maybe they're in breach. I don't know. I'm not a fucking lawyer. I certainly don't speak for either party in that regard. But when I saw this, because it said you owe the players, and then it said hundreds of that, it was carefully crafted, this tweet, by the way, as far as I can tell, to give this disingenuous impression that it's like, oh, fuck. Because, by the way, I don't care the fact that I have stock in Flashpoint or I worked with them. If they owe people money, I'm going to be on their ass. I want to be on their ass. In fact, it's one thing I find so sad about CSPPA. I'd like to just sit back and retweet a CSPPA thing about what the fucked up things Teals are doing, not have to do it myself. People I in theory, was supposed to want to work with.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, I went and looked into this, mate. I went and looked into it, right? Because I'm like, despite everything I just said, I'm still a sucker for fucking. If someone's owed their paper, it's unconscious. You can't fuck with a man's mail, you know.
Yes. And no matter who the messenger is, you've got to take it seriously. If someone makes a claim like that, yeah, for sure.
And obviously,
in this business,
and like obviously, you know, Scott's pissed off with us or whatever. You know, it doesn't make no difference. So I looked and I thought, this cannot be what I think it is. This can't be, because you wouldn't say it this way if it was that. So I went away. I asked people, I asked players in the CSPPA, I asked board members, you know. No, it is what it is. That basically the payment from Flashpoint to the CSPPA, which did not materialize because the CSPPA cost Flashpoint a sponsor by refusing to have the players assess the monitors ahead of them penning the deal, which caused the monitor company to pull out, especially at a time when marketing budgets were tenuous. Any trepidation or hesitation was bad. And so they pulled out. So Flashpoint said, "You cost."
Didn't do the ranking system at the time. They also were supposed to do as a ranking system, so we could see the tournament system.
Also that,
and find the. You know what everyone tells me, where the fines are? We never even had the fucking ranking system. They still haven't got it now. By the way, they've now themselves farmed the ranking system out to someone else. So they've essentially admitted we're incompetent.
Right. So Flashpoint said, well, because you cost to start sponsoring, you didn't do these things, we're not going to pay you the fees. And the response from CSPPA, as you saw, was publicly basically to say, well, we did agree to do those things, but we weren't legally obliged to do those things in the contract. So it's actually Flashpoint who were the bad guys, definitely not us. Now, here's the problem. I then assumed, because again, I'm trying to be like, I'm always trying to be charitable and think about the angles, right? Especially with people I know. So I'm like, well, right, okay, so it is the Flashpoint money, but that must mean some of that money goes to players in some way. It must do. So then I went, so I've asked. No, it doesn't. The fees just go to the running of the company, the operating of the company.
In the mad zones of the world, I'm guessing, or setting up seminars.
It doesn't go into any of the players' pockets. And so, you know, I hate to say it, but it's just manipulative and cynical to use the term CSPPA and players interchangeably. They're not the same thing. The CSPPA is a union which has members. It is a business, essentially, that looks after its member interests. To say the players are owed money implies that money directly going into their pockets is being withheld, which nobody would support. Right?
Sure.
But that isn't true. And so you're left with this unfortunate fucking reality, which is like, you know, I have to conclude from this. There was a big hangover. There's a lot of background here, which people aren't aware of, going right back to the PEA, which
that's where it all starts, Yeah,
I hate to say this. I mean, Flashpoint, it's not as egregious as the PEA was, but it is essentially a reworking of the concept.
It is literally the spiritual successor. And by the way, one of the reasons I was involved with Flashpoint is apropos of nothing. Like, turns out I actually sort of guessed that they were thinking about this already, but I didn't know. I just one day when I was talking to Jack from Cloud9, who I've had a very good relationship with, on, like, you know, asking me what players maybe I think of them, or obviously done a load of content with me. One day I just told him, by the way, by the by, since you've always given me all info, I actually was one of the few people who thought PEA was was like a decent concept. Like I can see why you guys were going for it. You're not getting the kind of revenues from TOs you want. This would be a way to potentially consolidate. And then I'm sure you guys could sell the sponsorships, look at how many big orgs you have. And then they basically just said something like, yeah, actually, yeah, we kind of still thought it was a good idea. And then a few months later, they just brought me in to do the consulting. So basically, yeah, as far as I can tell, it was basically they went dormant for a few years. Well, it was really bad, and obviously they also wanted probably to get certain dickheads out of the way who messed up PEA, and then they thought, you come back with a new name, you do it right this time, and then yeah, the idea was that. But I certainly think it all comes back from that PEA thing. That initial battle, which was players against their orgs, it's like some sort of mad, never-ending siege war.
I know. We even ended up on different sides of that equation.
Just because our sources, etc.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, I still think there was one aspect to the whole TSM Sean Gare stuff like that. I know it never got made public because Sean wasn't used to. First of all, he wasn't used to being in drama, and second of all, he certainly wasn't used to being called the bad guy.
Yes.
And third of all, given he's going up against one of esports classic bad guys. So
that's why I have to say that was another manipulative genius move. Reginald, in that scenario, it's fucking Reginald from TSM. How's he ever going to be the good guy? Well, in that scenario, what he did, I never even realised this myself, Richard, is the time when all of us were against Reddit, a riot over something, and people were like, well, fuck, if Monty, Richard, Reginald, and maybe it was about when they said that the teams didn't make the money.
Love me some Reggie or whatever,
and people were like, well, if they're all together, it must be the case. That's what Reginald did to me there, mate. What he did was, his logic was, well, if I get Thorin to be the guy who delivers my message, it must be legit.
Yeah.
Well, all I was doing was an interview, by the way, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, there was stuff I saw at that time, which never came out publicly, where it was like, listen, could have had Reginald on toast, but you just couldn't show it. And so, look, all of that PEA stuff, I guess it does come down, like, because on the other hand, while I was like fully with the players on that one, it does also come down to this weird situation where it's like, you play for a team, you're contracted. It's like the Super League situation that just come up recently.
Good example.
You play for Man United. Man United play in the Premier League. You like playing in the Premier League. You're a footballer playing in the Premier League. You got your adoring fans. You're getting your sponsors, your money. You're going to be able to make extra money with endorsement deals based on how many people are viewing your product and the money that's coming in and all of this other stuff, right? Man United then say we're not in the Premier League. We're going to go play in the Super League. And then you go, wait, but the fans hate that. And by extension, they're going to hate any player that plays in it. And that's going to hurt me, hurt my paper, hurt my brand, hurt my reputation. And Man United turn around and go, yeah, but who fucking employs you? Who pays you 100 grand a week? 200 grand a week? It's us, right? So you end up with this, like, mad conflict of like who's right, who's wrong, because on the one hand, you wouldn't even be a professional footballer if Man United don't pay you fucking salary and put you in, and so they have to have some input on it, but equally it's philosophically, morally and ethically wrong to just supplant a player and say you don't even play in the league anymore, and all of your additional earnings and you're standing with fans and around the world, we're going to completely fuck that up for you because we want to make more money. So again, this is why you need unions and leverage and discussions. Incredibly, it still blows my mind that American sports are so far ahead with stuff like this because, think about the NBA lockouts, right? And how they got better deals for players. And at the end of the day...
A number of times that's happened. I mean, almost every like 10, 15 years they do one.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Absolutely.
Miss half a season almost.
So look, that was what was going on with the PA. Like, they were essentially, the players were going to be, for those who weren't there, the players were going to be told you can't play in ESL anymore. And they were like, that's the best tournament. That's a fun tournament. We love going on the ESL circuit. We love playing at events like Cologne and fucking Katowice and all this. Like, and you're going to take that away from us to play in a league on the basis that we might make more money and we'll be like partial owners in it, but it has to succeed. And the team owners turned around and went, yeah, well, we fucking own you. We pay you a salary. And so, naturally, I was all in with the players on that one, even though I could see the argument. Like, if you think about a team owner, team player relationship as employer-employee, I get it. You do what I say when I fucking say it, but we all know this is sports, so it ain't that cut and dry, and it can never be that cut and dry. You can't, the owner of the fucking Lakers doesn't come down and say to LeBron, right, you're mopping the fucking floors today, because I own you. Like, there'd be fucking outrage about that. So, the bottom line is, like, the owners were too against the players, but the players were also having it too much of their own way. And because of that, that Reggie was cute and smart and basically was able to, do an interview and make Sean Gers look like the bad guy. It left a lot of people confused as to what to believe. Sean took a lot of heat for it. And in the end, the PEA fortunately dissolved because he had a bunch of cunts involved with it. They went back to the drawing board. They got rid of Jason Katz and some of the other negative elements in it. And then they come back and they basically said, right, we're going to do Flashpoint. We'll make it cool. It sounds cooler. It's less like weird than the PEA. It's about the league first and the all first, and we'll all have this money and this investment. We'll hire these people. And like Duncan says, first two seasons at least have certainly been a cavalcade of bumbling incompetence. And I say that with all due respect to Monte Cristo, who I understand is but
he would
one.
agree.
Yeah.
Maybe off camera.
Yeah. I understand he is but one man. So anyway, Scott used to be a team owner, right? Used to be very big in EG. He was a pioneer in that sense. Scott has only been associated with success. He is a true esports great. He's worked with successful news organizations.
Also a Lifetime Achievement Award winner.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done it all, and he's been very successful doing it because he obviously knows his stuff. The part of his history that he probably wouldn't forgive me for bringing up is that he could be a ruthless cunt. Because he had
ironically on these exact topics. I'll tell you what, I once had a clash. I won't go into old war stories, but a quick one basically. At one point in time, I was promoting a product with a player, and he basically said, I own all that player's image rights. He tried to claim throughout all of time. So I had to give him old demos of it. I was I said, I'm not even falling for that, mate. But again, this is why I've always thought it was a bit of a weird move that he went so far on the player side afterwards. Because he was basically fucking Darth Vader to Alex Garfield's Palpatine. He was the guy who destroyed all the Jedi. They had people's balls in a vice grip. You could be the best player in the world in StarCraft. You didn't do your streaming hours. You got fined. You got fucked with. You didn't do your sponsor requirements. That was what you were paid for. You were essentially told you're not just paid to play StarCraft. You're paid to do these sponsor requirements to hit your deadline. Which, by the way, I can see both sides on. But again, I agree. There was a period where it's sort of he had to come to Jesus and he became a player guy when he got out of it. Which you could say his experiences might have, showed him the light of that. Sure, of course.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to. EG was an org like no other. It was one of the reasons why they were successful. For example,
monolith, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't think Alex would even mind me saying this. I've recently, again, not that long ago, I taught Alex Garfield, and he's had a tough old time of it. And a lot of relationships where it's compared to the bad guys you have to be wary about now, he was just a man.
He's the devil, Yeah, I agree.
Well, not even that. I mean, he's one of the lesser demons in a way for me.
No, I mean in the sense of that he's not actually that evil. He's just a guy who's out for his own self-interest and he wants to succeed. And he will, as you say, he will be ruthless.
Yeah, he wanted to succeed. I mean, that's what CS Pro Mod was about, right? When he tried that project, it was if I control the game, everyone plays.
He was kind of like Nicola Nyholm without being as much of a cunt.
Yeah, he was a charming Nicola Nyholm, essentially.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, I'm all right with people like that. And then when you hear about how the next gen of team owners fucked him over behind the scenes and all the Twitch deal went down and all this stuff, he's got a story that's actually kind of heartbreaking. It's one of the most tragic kind of falls from grace that we have in esports. It's just never been told.
He also thought, sadly, they all dream of, it's Nyholm's dream. He thought he cashed out at the top. Only to find out 5 years later, the top was about 10 times higher. And it's wait a minute. So I had complete control, cashed out, and then now even my org is nothing. And then all these new orgs were YouTubers at 10 times bigger. What? In a mad way. He's sort of one of these people where he got slightly rich off crypto, and then he just got out, and then it went to the fucking moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually feel for him a little bit. Yeah.
No. And listen, mate, he can acknowledge some of the mistakes he made. But just to put it into context, I was at an event, right? I used to work all the StarCraft events back in the day, and EG were very big in StarCraft. I mean, Complexity were close to being what EG were. They missed the Stefano thing in particular. They were doing the team house. EG just nailed it. They've had personalities over performance in some areas, but they knew content, streams, box office. Oh, of course, mate. Yeah. Yes. And eventually got their man, Stefano anyway and all that, right? So they even had a genuine sort of Western
they had a whole
presence.
Bunch of Jade.
And obviously when they started bringing in the Korean talent, and it wasn't just his Total Biscuit famously described it. He said a frat
house or something,
a frat house, and he was talking about the EG house because it sort of was like a frat house.
It kind of was.
Yeah, but anyway, those were the halcyon days. So I remember I was at a StarCraft event. And, think about In Control. Think about what he was to EG, what he was to StarCraft 2. And it was like a Take TV event. And I think he was doing some casting where like maybe Too Good was there. And so first of all, on one day, because it's hot, it's sweaty, it was like boiling hot in Krefeld, and you're in this tiny, well, not tiny, but it is a house at the end of the day. It's not like a big land center.
No, of course not.
So pouring with fucking sweat, and he was changing his shirts, and he ran out of shirts, and he wore a regular t-shirt on one day, and he went on broadcast, and he was just dressed in his civilian clothes, if you want to call it that. He got a call immediately. I was there. He couldn't believe it, by the way, and it was just like, why aren't you wearing your shirt? You got sponsor obligations. It's every time you appear on camera. And he was like a bit disappointed with that because he's like, it's meant to be a relaxed, fun environment. And the other thing was, I think famously they were sponsored by Monster, and he was just doing a show, talking on air. Someone handed him a can of Red Bull, and he just drank it without thinking about it. And you can imagine the sort of calls he got. And I remember him being really despondent for a bit. We were talking about it. Like he said, don't put any of this in the papers or whatever, But like, it is hard sometimes being a pro when you're at EG. He said, like, every time I'm on camera, the fucking standard is so unbelievable high here. Everything has to be perfect all of the time, and that's what EG was like. It was like that. It's why they succeeded, but it's also, think about the taint on your soul to have to be that way in all areas, that you would even be willing to, sort of like, you don't give any leeway to someone like In Control. You don't give any leeway to someone like Idra. You know what I mean? Like, to these iconic guys. And so, yeah, AG was weird. It was a special case. But back to Scott, they were the original brutal guys. If they heard about a rival organization getting a fucking sponsor, they went to that sponsor and went, why would you want to sponsor them? You can sponsor us. They would fucking cut you off at the knees, So a lot of these owners, when they came in, there was some old fucking beef back to the EG set in the new generation. It's no secret Scoots here. It's Jack at the end with a fucking mortal passion. Some of the most outrageous fucking vitriol. Considering I think like Jack's just another version of Alex Garfield, essentially. Yeah. That's all it is.
Maybe even a little more charming.
You know that line in fucking Carlito's Way? When the old guy says to Carlito, he said, now, you should really make friends with Benny. You know why? Because Benny Blanco was you 10 years ago. And Carlito's going, never me. I've been with my guys. Who's he? But like, Carlito was that young upstart who just was hot-tempered and just made a name for himself and became the big drug dealer. And we all know how that ends. It ends at the train station. Blah, blah. Right? So it was that shit going on. People didn't like Jack at the end coming in and basically being Alex Garfield, not if you were the former associates of Alex Garfield. So I get it, mate. I get the distaste for it. But I always thought a large part of the hatred in the fucking, in the whole PEA Flashpoint drama, it's all rooted in ancient history.
Yes.
And I don't think Scott can fucking be honest.
I don't think it had anything to do with Flashpoint, the actual project, as far as I can tell.
So it's crazy to me. So anyway, back to the point. I went and, like I say, looked into all of this, and it's just that. It's just Scott essentially publicly saying the players owed money and they're not owed money. And I can't. I've got no truck with that, mate. It's like this is basically, you hate Flashpoint because of the people and the money behind it and the hand that rocks the cradle. And you're trying to make this sound way worse than it actually is. If Flashpoint owed people money, I'd be the first, I'm co-streaming their stuff at the moment. I'd call them out. I wouldn't co-stream their shit. I wouldn't support that brand in any way, shape, or form. You pay what you fucking owe. But that isn't what's gone on here. This is a contractual dispute at a fucking contractor-subcontractor level between someone essentially masquerading as a union at this point and a TO. And that's got fuck all to do with players getting their paper. So
I also thought one of my other tweets was on point, but everyone ignored this one, bizarrely, right? One of the whole things that Scoots especially, but also people like the CSPPA, it's the idea of like, we're professionalizing it, we're formalizing it. Scoots would be one of the first people to tell you years ago, get a lawyer to check your contracts. Why bother getting a lawyer to check a contract if you'll never enforce it? So if you're owed all this money, remember, I'm an independent person aside from the fact I own the stock, etc. Like I don't speak for Flashpoint here. So I suspect the reason why Flashpoint and CSPPA both no longer address that topic is because neither of them do want, if there's a court case, to ever have those tweets be used. Like that could show intent or maybe show that you're misleading. Yeah. So as a result, right, if you're owed all this money, it's totally legit, squared away, it's all the contract, then why aren't you taking them to court? Why is that not even an option? Now, don't tell me again, well, you never win the court. Like, I can't keep having that because if that happens, it's like the union's fake. It can never actually do anything unless, apparently, according to this mechanism, the other party somehow low-key wants the thing to happen and just says, okay, then I'll do it.
Yeah. And so, you know, this is a sad one for me. Because this is the first time... And
I'm nothing burger in it. There's just nothing to it.
No, but I'm going to get crucified for saying it. Like, I just think Scooter's like completely in the wrong here. I think he's absolutely in the wrong. I think it's grotesquely unfair to to the union members, the union you love and have fought for to create, that is there to represent player interests. It is absolutely wrong to conflate the union and the players themselves in a contractual dispute like this. And I'd wager, if you talk to these players, I'll wager they didn't like it. I might even go so far as to say stuff like this might be why some people are losing confidence with it, and some people stood down from the board. And I know that if Scott would talk to me, which he won't do, he'll tell me I'm an arsehole and he doesn't know I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And he's got information that if only I would have gone to him, he would have told me. No, this tweet stands on its face and it is incorrect. It is not fair to the players. It's not fair to Flashpoint, which I know probably no one's playing any violins for them. It's just a terrible look. This didn't need to be said again and brought up to settle some mad petty grievance. I don't even know why Scott dislikes Monty. I don't even know what that's about. He clearly does.
I'll put it this way. I'll tie it in because I was even thinking earlier. I actually now get a sense for why this has happened, right? Because I thought the same thing you did, Richard. Like, when I signed with Flashpoint, I've even said it on this show many times. I said it right at the beginning as well, when I actually thought CSPPA was a good project. I hoped people like this, that would be how we'd make these things work, right? So there's a league that has certain things that you disagree with. You're part of an association that has the players. Best way we can do this is not to do it publicly. It's to back channel all the info. I can even tell you, here's what they're really having problems with behind closed doors. What's up? What about your end? Where's the point where it's getting stuck? Can we get this past that? Can we maybe route it round certain people? Can we find a way to rephrase what we're doing? Never happened. So my suspicion, in line with what you've been saying about it going all the way back, is when you get the blood feud. And you very rarely get those in esports. I've been in some classic ones, still in some now. When you get the blood feud, right, I can tell you, you can almost hate the person who you thought was a mutual, who sides with the person who you have the blood feud with. You can almost hate them more than the person you have the blood feud with. Because then you're thinking like, so you don't believe what I said they did, or you don't believe that I say they're scum, or that I hate them for a good reason. And basically, as far as I can tell, when me and Monty joined up with Flashpoint, we were like, it's like we sold our soul to the devil. I think that's what he thinks. And so as a result, I guess Monty just goes, he's another fucking body in the rubble, isn't he?
Yeah.
As far as I can tell.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. This is like the first time. Like, I never got swept along with it. And I'll repeat what I said last week. I'll say it again. I don't want people going and fucking rewriting history like they did with me. Like, oh, he never did anything good. He's a cunt. Or he might have done something good once in 2015, but he's a cunt now. Or he's bitter and jaded now. Or he's an alcoholic now. Whatever, he's mentally ill now. Thorin needs to save him now. Whatever it is. Like, whatever mad fucking narrative people are working about me, this week. I don't want people to go and use this tweet as sort of an indictment on all of Scott's achievements and
of course not.
The countless number of times he's been on the very clearly right side of an argument, even sometimes standing alone to do it. As I said, people absolutely despised him when he said, this esports gambling thing ain't going to end well,
He did what we were doing now about CSPPA for all these topics. By the way, sometimes when we weren't always commenting, maybe because back then maybe we didn't know the business side of it as much, etc. These are all nuanced topics. Sometimes he was actually doing what we are doing now about CSPPA. He was the guy going, right, you can't do this, that's lies. It's obviously not true. I'm going to cut through the bullshit. Yeah.
And I'll just add, if, like I see a lot of people saying, if you do genuinely believe, and I'm not saying this, but I see people say it, if you do genuinely believe that there's been something in his life that's changed to make him behave differently on social media, which I think is an outrageous thing to ever claim about anyone else. You don't know who these people are.
You don't know their life, of course.
You don't know these people. You know, we know these people. You don't, right? And as I keep saying, Twitter is not a direct window into anyone's soul. And if you think it is, your box is gone. But if you do genuinely believe that there's been something that happened in his life, there must be some reason to make him this way and make him, you know, on the wrong side of this particular argument. You're not going to fucking help by giving him relentless hate and abuse. So don't do that. Like, I don't want anyone to do that. I don't even like reading it in the chat, frankly, guys. It's not. You're talking about a guy who is still ostensibly on some level my friend, and I don't want that. You know, it's like, listen, we all get to be wrong sometimes. He might not even be wrong, but based on every stone I've turned over, this is a misrepresentation of what's actually happened, and I don't like that. I don't think it's fair. You know, probably a reason why no players have spoken about this particular issue, right?
Yeah, that's the reason why I kind of side with your theory that it has to be to do with the personal dispute with certain people. By the way, going back years and years and years, because the other thing I do not get about this is the one time someone did back channel to me from the CSPPA, they basically said, like, oh, I'm not to do any of that stuff. Like, I'm just about, you know, the player representation. I have issues, you know, whether or not this particular thing's happened. Every player that was involved that I had contacts with, they also were like, no, that's not my issues. My issues again are things like this, right? You know, as you'd expect, like, that's the problem is I only feel like it's coming from him. That's the bizarre thing. So whatever axe he's got to grind, I actually think in a mad way, it kind of ties in the topic. In a mad way, it's a bad look for CSPPA. Like, I know on the one hand, what he was doing was tactically good, because it's the same way I could talk for Flashpoint, but not for Flashpoint, as I'm not the official spokesman.
Yeah.
So I could say things they couldn't.
Definitely valid parallels there.
That's very, very useful to have. The problem is, in general, no matter what a fan might think, you are wrong if you think I fucked up the marketing. I actually made that league relevant when it had no fucking teams in it. I made all the topics to do with it. I think I won most of them. I beat the fucking CSPPA. What are you talking about, guys? That's all the players you like. I basically showed that they were wrong collectively. So certain things I did, you might not have understood my tactics, but the end goal, it got to where actually I hoped it would go. Like, I had a goal in mind. I hit it. This angle, I don't even feel like he's executing to get the goal he wants. Like in this particular case, the reason this tweet has died on its arse is because this is the only way you could phrase it that anyone would even care. If you'd have just said, you know, you didn't pay that contract that you breached from, everyone would go, we've already sort of decided that, man. No one gives a fuck. But instead, you had phrased it like this. And the dumbest thing is, then when people are sort of saying, like, well, what's it about? Yeah, just not giving any specifics. It's like, mate, if you want to speak out about something like I would, you've got to kind of give some specifics, surely. Like, if someone's owed money, let's find out what it's for. What tournament is it for? Who owes them the money?
Yeah.
When was it due? Like, these are all really important questions. By the way, even if you don't want to say it, get in contact with a journalist, get hltv.org. They're not fucking us. They've been fairly neutral on all these topics. Get in contact with them.
And as a final point, and I'm sure Scott wouldn't care about this, or I don't want to speak on his behalf, I'll just add, you know, I keep saying it. We're at a fucking precipice. There's a lot going on in CS where we don't know where we're going to be at the end of this year, right? We don't know where we're going to be moving forward as an esport. And I know Scott loves Counterstrike, and I know he loves and I know he loves esports, and he wants it to flourish. And like me, he's dedicated a huge part of his adult life to something that, on the face of it, seems insane. And the people you're doing it for, all the cool kids, they ridicule you for being an old man in esports. Scott's even older than me, Duncan, Red Eye. He is the genuine grandfather of all of this. And so, you know, I know he loves that, but man, what a time to be implying that, like, Flashpoint don't pay their dues. They might be in sponsor talks. They might be doing other projects coming up.
It's not a very stable project, man.
Yeah, exactly. And it's already got problems. It's already dumped a ton of money into a bottomless pit. It's already had incompetent
It'll probably die of its own accord, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, guys, you know, like, we can all see, like, whatever you think about Flashpoint, right? We can all laugh about it. We can all meme. We can point out their failures.
Yeah.
We're a better scene with Flashpoint around, right?
It brings millions of dollars of prize money.
Yeah. So
that is good, surely.
Yeah. So it's like, to publicly imply they're not paying out prize money, which, by the way, is a massive kiss of death in the eyes of sponsors. I know this. Like, if you are ever attached to anything like that, because remember, You put the money in escrow, you run the event, you build the event, and then and you pay all your staff. They're on the payroll, you run it. Then the thought process is we get enough sponsors in, and we should be able to make some sort of small profit, right? Well, if you've got a sponsor who's a big fish and you're in talks, and they think they're going to get associated with non-payment of money or something else negative, they pull the fuck out, and they won't be back. And so that goes against what Scott should be about. Because that has the real potential to hurt the league moving forward. Anyway, that's all the drama done. Let's talk about an event. It's always good to talk about games. I watched DreamHack religiously. One of the first kind of sort of, how should we say, culminations of this new revised ESL are kind of controlling DreamHack rather than DreamHack just being its own thing anymore. They even broadcast it on the ESL channels, which led to record numbers. Viewing a DreamHack event, of course, that's a little bit disingenuous when you look at the framing, but still, well.
You haven't noticed ESL's trying to consolidate everything. Suddenly, ESL one's IM, and now DreamHack's on the ESL channel, and tweets from ESLCS are about DreamHack. Like, listen, guys, they don't do this for no reason. There's some sort of a play here, like they're rolling all up into one brand that's going to, I assume, be sold or something. Something like that's in the works, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes total sense. And maybe ESEA will be jettisoned, who knows. But anyway, so yeah, we can obviously talk about the DreamHack Masters spring. And it's
by the way, at this point in time, ESEA essentially is the wastelands outside of Mega City 1 in the 2008 universe. Just those mutants don't need to be allowed in the city. Just leave them out there.
It's a mad throwback for you, because I know you fucking do know your Judge Dredd in 2008, same as I do. Basically, ESEA is being run by Scabby Hayes and the Gila Munger.
There you go.
If you know that reference, fair play.
I love 2008, mate.
Yeah, they fucking do as well. Anyway, whatever. No one knows what the fuck we're
talking about. All the car boot sales, buy about 400 of them for about £10 in a box.
Just Google that. Just Google how a mad obscure reference that is, guys. You'll appreciate it. It's a good story too. It's
by the way,
it's called the Hot Dog Run. Great. It's a classic one.
If you want the ultimate fucking blue balls experience, you boomers will never get it, because you can just get this shit online and you get them all. You can probably download every 2000 AD issue, I'm assuming, right? Go and buy a load of comics from like a car boot sale, right? You get it, you start reading, and then you get it. It's like, oh fuck, what happens in episode 4? Oh, I've only got 42.
Yeah,
shit.
I know, yeah.
What? And then in 42, they're even going like C41 for what happened.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
why?
even in the dialogue, has happened in Prog 41.
Exactly.
Like, fuck's sake, yeah. That used to be a real thing. I used to get it all the time with the American ones I pick up, because they were even harder to import.
Because you'd just be getting the odd one, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But anyway, DreamHack games. So I did a bunch of coverage for this over on Deserto, yeah. Thanks for reminding me where I work, Duncan. So, mate, I've already been streaming.
I know.
Like 4 hours.
Fair enough.
I'm hitting the wall, mate.
People don't know what it's like to do like 6 hours on camera live, mate. It's fucking hard.
Yeah. So let's start with all the big stories that come out of this event. FaZe, bang, out in last place. One of the areas I've definitely been wrong is that when I saw Twists join, quickly followed by Carrigan, for me, I thought they were going to have instant success, because that's been a hallmark of Carrigan's teams down the years. Now, Carrigan did an interview because I did a video saying, when I was doing this coverage on the first day, saying FaZe actually been a massive disappointment. And loads of people going, they've only played like 30, 40 maps together, like as if I'm being unreasonable, like expecting them, And so Carrigan did an interview where he said, I'm experimenting with the lineup still. And when I come to a team, I kind of play it loose. And, for the first 12 months, I don't know what industry Carrigan's working in if he thinks that's like a genuine thing or what. Like, we have to just watch you. Why are you experimenting? We're finishing last, mate. Like, surely that you learn nothing from that experiment. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm experimenting on a mouse, right? Put shampoo in its eyes. Yep, didn't like that, right? Do that again 100 times. No, of course you don't, you dickhead. So madness to even sort of imply that, but that even suggests to me that he knows on some level this has been a really disastrous start. FaZe fans are very much like Na'Vi fans in the sense, like, if you ever mildly criticize the team, even though I've said I believe this could have been a world number one, apparently I'm a hater, so because I've said, well, they're playing shite at the moment, but this was diabolical, mate, because I didn't like the format. I didn't like the format of the because they had a best of one to start. Anyone can lose in a best of one. They had Virtus Pro in a best of one. That's a nightmare. It's losing to mouse sports that does it for me.
They've done that a few times now, mate, which is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, and you know, they also at the same time, because this is when all the events were all piled on each other, because ESL and fucking everyone else don't want to play nice as usual. You know, you had like they come straight out of fucking the Pro League, where again they crapped out in the last possible finish with like. Yeah, they did beat Mouse Sports at that one, I think. But the only other team they beat was Ents. They then went into an IEM qualifier where they lost to OG and G2. They lost to Mouse Sports here in a best of 3. And now they've got G2 in Flashpoint, which, by the way, I think G2 were going to spank them because G2 were very much on the come up. So the question now is, like, you know, how long are you, I'll tell you what. I'll let you do. Can you do this for me, Dunk? Because you might be better at it than me, right? Can you walk into the mind of a fucking idiot for me for just a couple of minutes and tell me what is a reasonable amount of time that
Sample
I should
size.
Yeah, what's a reasonable amount of time that I should, according to an idiot, remember? And then you can give your own opinion afterwards if it differs, right? What's a reasonable amount of time before I can criticise FaZe for finishing last at every tournament they're in?
Right, I'm going to say off the top of my head, I normally used to do when it was lands, I had a famous line. It was like, once you're about 3 or 4 lands in, we've already seen what you're capable of. Like, you're not going to go like 6 lands and suddenly the 6th one, you're going to be god tier. Now, funnily enough, Carrigan actually had one of the great exceptions to that. His mouse sports lineup bizarrely did indeed make some mad player like adjustment late, like something like 9 months into it, and then have this. But they were very much the exception to the rule. So if you think about it, 3 or 4 lands, okay, online, yeah, people aren't maybe feeling it as much. So let's say, I mean, in this case, it's got to be they've been together now. I mean, I'm going to say 2 months or something. They've got to play. I remember Pro League is a fuck ton of games. You play at least 5 best of 3 just in the Pro League group. So you have Pro League, you had Katowice, you have like, mate, this is enough. Like, this is why, actually, after we talk about this, like, I'll give you my thoughts on FaZe, mate, and it's not that great, actually. I also agree. Like, I had massive hopes for it, hasn't materialized, has not materialized. Yeah,
well, listen, I mean, just give me your thoughts. I don't know what else to say. I like, you know, bizarrely, I saw people saying my Twist is just inconsistent. Like,
he's the best player by far.
I know. Like, the one who's missing at the moment is Cold.
That's exactly my thoughts, mate. This is the problem with that team. Is I looked at it and I was right, there's 3 people in this team I can rely on. So I've got Twists, and listen, he was actually the gamble. Remember, he was fucking actually, I know you had like a decent very end of team lookup, but he was ropey as fuck when they were thinking of kicking him. And it was right to kick him at the time. At the time, it was like, listen, if you recover something, it's going to be on another team, so just fuck off and do it. It's best for everyone. So he was the gamble, if anything. The idea that Carrigan was going to be good, I assumed Carrigan will be good. I assume he'll be good. He's been good in every team he's been in. And then lastly, Coldzera, probably one of the most consistently, fundamentally good players to ever play Counterstrike. Yeah. Even when he was in the Nico version of FaZe Clan. Yeah, he didn't drop massive numbers, but he's always good. You would always see him win those clutches that he wins. Yeah, some of that was land, certainly, but even then, you expected him to win the clutches. He's going to play smart. He's going to do some secondary calls. Then he obviously had that period where he got Twists, and he was the IGL, and he was doing a great job. Twists was suddenly revitalized. Coldzera was half decent. But since they've brought Carrigan in, Coldzera's just never come online as Coldzera is expected to. There's a reason why morons used to say, no matter what I said, if I went to Nico was really good, wow, get right to bed. They'd go, what about Coldzera? Because he was so good, these motherfuckers were obsessed with him. Well, he had to be the topic of conversation in the same way as you can't say Simple had a great event. Someone will go, I personally prefer Zemu. It's like, well, no one's talking about that. You know, like in the same sense that people get obsessed with these people, like fucking K-pop stands. Coldzera deserved that status. At the moment, he's just an average player. And now look at the other names. Look, Brokey has still never been to the top. This is still the best level he's played at. He's a little bit hit and miss, sure. Rain, basically, as far as we know, in these teams just takes whatever's left. He's just a soldier, isn't he? So I'm sorry, it is on Coldzera's shoulders. Like, I'll say the 2 that are underwhelming are Coldzera and Carrigan. Carrigan, because you just expect him to figure it out every time. You expect him to, he's like some fucking Sherlock or something. He's supposed to crack the case. And then Coldzera, like I say, Coldzera, this is why you're here, mate. And not only that, you're basically the architect of this team. You wanted in someone like Twistin and said how if you gave him his spots, he'd be really good, right? You were the one who sort of talked shit on Nico on the way out the door. By the way, he's playing way better than you are, mate. And then you got in Carrigan at your request. By the way, I loved all those storylines. I thought, fuck, he must be motivated if you want to.
Yeah, he's fired up,
saying,
right?
It's my time to go back to the top. You got to deliver some performances sooner or later, mate. Because a lot of these games they're losing. This is the brutal thing. Still, some of the games are so close.
Yeah, oh, totally. I mean, look, let's talk about the
They've
loss
got
to
like
Mouse.
Cloud9-itis, haven't they? They just lose close so many times. They never get over the line.
Let's talk about the Mouse Sports loss specifically from here, because I think this is like a good microcosm of everything we're talking about, right? So they start out strong, right? Coldzera is still not great, but it's all right. It didn't need to be. I was expecting this to be a nice, clean 2-0 for FaZe. Take the first map, 16-7, and Twist drops like 29-30 kills. Right? That was perfect. Brokey has a good showing as well. He gets into the 20s. Rain's just behind him as his wingman. Coldzera bottom frags, but he had fuck all to do. Yeah, this is the oiled machine you expect. Also against opposition who, you know, I don't think this Mouse Sports team has its identity yet. I know they've just brought in an IGL.
All over the place, mate.
Yeah, they are. And you know, look, you have to wonder how committed Rops is to that project, but fuck that. That's for another show. Right, then in the next map in the series, right, when they're sitting pretty and you come in and it's nuke and you go, right, this is the nightmare if you're Mouse Sports. Like, Carrigan, nuke, tactical map, right, bada bing, bada boom. Well, turns out they just can't get nothing going, and they didn't. This is where, like, I don't even think Coldzera got into double figures. I know it's just kills that we're talking about at the moment, but there was no cohesion with this at all. They were running around. They didn't look like they knew what they were doing on the map. So super rare. So then you get into the decider, and this, you're like, well, overpass. Overpass. It's perfect. You've got some of the best overpass players on FaZe. It's brilliant, right? You know, like, what more do you fucking want? Think about all the teams they've played in and what maps were a staple. And since the introduction of Overpass, which guys could play here. Like, meanwhile, Mouse Sports, you know, whatever, fuck them. Point is, this is just tailor-made for the taking. They got absolutely battered, and the sad truth is that, yeah, unfortunately, Brokey did go missing in this one, but over the course of the series, Coldzera just didn't have the level of impact that you might want, and they got absolutely bodied by Acor. They couldn't find a way to shut him down. What was mad as well was, like I said, Twists dropped another 30, and then they turned around and went, yeah, well, Twist has been a bit inconsistent. I'm like, what? You fans, you tell me I don't know the game. Twists definitely isn't the problem here. So I agree with you. It's just like Coldzera has the odd good map now. It's not good enough for who he is. And I'm wondering if there's like some mad thing going on in the team where, because it was all Coldzera's idea and Coldzera wants to be a better rounded player and he wants the team to work so desperately, he's like wrecking himself and not just doing like Coldzera things. You know, the shocks disease, basically, where it's like, right, it's all on me to succeed. Perhaps we'll succeed if I play a bunch of positions I've never played before. Perhaps we'll succeed if I start open. Perhaps we'll succeed if I start IGLing. Like, no, it's not all about you. Shut the fuck up. Don't overcomplicate. Compartmentalize all the shit that's going on around you and just run around popping heads. That's what you do, because only you can do it in that way. And like, so I when I look at their maps, I'm just agog. I don't understand how Coldzera can be this off the pace sometimes. And yeah, it's not just him. Brokey is inconsistent, but he's your young up and coming talent. He's the guy who's like, he's also in the mad world of the AWPer, the most important role, you know. You got to give him some leeway. And unfortunately, FaZe, even when they do big numbers, even when Twist, if Twist is turning up and dropping 30s, you should win. You should win.
Teams like Mouse, you should be spanking.
Yeah. So I don't know, mate, but this doesn't bode well for the future for me. Judgment Day, if you ask me, at Flashpoint 3. But like, people are saying it's outrageous. You don't get 12 months in Counterstrike. If you're a fan, you heard that interview from Carrigan, and you think 12 months is a reasonable amount of time to wait for a team to come online, I bet you were the same cunts who fucking flame Cloud9. Shut the fuck up. So the other story that came out of this down there in the doldrums, and I just saw them lose again today, funnily enough. Complexity. 9th to 12th. Not brilliant. I thought they would do better at this tournament, all things considered. You know, they've had some decent results. Second at the closed qualifier, fought to get the Flashpoint in the first place. Lost to that Mouse Sports team who did that insane Herculean effort of playing like 31 maps in 3 days or whatever the fuck it was.
Another thing I'd like to see CSPPA talk about, maybe fucking hell, give me a break.
That was a layup as well, because if you want to bang on Flashpoint,
that's easy.
Yeah, you just side with ESL on that issue and pretend it was Flashpoint being the bad guys. I guess you realise the fucking community would have seen through that. I did a video about that because, like, this might sound weird, like I have a heart or something. I can't be too mean to mouse sports, mate. How can I be mean to mouse sports after what they just gone? No, that's inhuman. No one should have to play in 3 fucking tournaments, 31 maps in 3 or 4 fucking days or whatever it was. How can you judge a team in those conditions?
By the way, those would be appropriate moments to boycott. Totally appropriate. And if I'm a team who's not even involved, I'd say I'll join you so it doesn't fucking happen to me.
Yeah, of course. So that was a mad one. But anyway, you know, we show's already about to run fucking insanely long, so maybe we'll put that on the back burner for now. But anyway, you know, here they lost to Astralis, and like I say, I think this Astralis just wants to be put down. I think this version of Astralis is the fucking dog that you had, and it's like, you know, you're constantly looking on Wikipedia. How long does my dog live? And it's like, it's 17, mate. I wouldn't look at that. You don't want to see the number. You know what I mean? It's already 2 years past this. You know, I think this Astralis project needs, you know, it needs to be took to the vet basically, because I don't think they can ever be that great core ever again. It's not going to work with Bubsky. You know what I mean? Like it's you can't. There is no Astralis after Device. I just don't believe it. Right? So, whatever. Take that.
There is. It'll be one of the greatest fucking storylines of all time. Put it this way, that's the scale we're talking about here.
Totally. But anyway, they lost to that Astralis team. You know, lost to that Astralis team. There was an overtime in there, but whatever. And then, and this is the bonkers one, Furia. Like, again, on overtime, they're getting close. But yeah, this was crazy. I mean, I'm even going to say something I never thought would come out my mouth. Finally, JKS looks to be in some sort of semblance of form. It took him fucking long enough. He's one of the highest paid players in World Counterstrike. Like, you know, and fuck your standing narratives. You know, oh, we only had 4 of our core team who were all like some of the best players in the world a few months ago. Yugi outfragged you. Be ashamed, right? So, I don't know. I don't know what to make the complexity right now. There's something off with him. A lot of people are laying it on Poison's doorstep. I don't know. I don't know. It seems to be a much deeper and more profound malaise.
I mean, they're also another team that get into a fucking billion close maps, overtimes, like every fucking game. They can never just smash people somehow. And that's with, by the way, Blame F has still kept his numbers the whole time. And Config actually was on a mad tear the last few months. He was just bodying everyone. So, yeah, I expected, as you say, when I've always said this, right? I hoped JKS was coming in to be the star, right? But then once Config started going out of control, it's like, you know what? Even though he's mad overpaid for it, he could just be a nice third star. He could be, the guy who just contributes. So if he is doing that, now you're supposed to win. You know, look how wide open the circuit is right now.
Losing to Big today was so weird, mate. Like, I mean, again, obviously we'll talk about Flashpoint at the end, but losing to Big was just a weird one for me. Big felt like they were in a slump. Haven't really impressed me for a while. Feels like the Big that we saw go to the #1 spot. We're never even going to see them on land, so it's an academic comparison
They're in
anyway.
like third gear at the moment.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, they just don't seem to be able to close out a game. And Blame F is fragging out, man. Like, it ain't your IGL, unless you think there's some mad tactical deficiency going on. But they're competitive in a lot of these games. It's like really weird. Everyone keeps saying to me, like when we're watching the games, we watched it today, like, what's happened to Poison? What's happened to Poison? Again, it's a mad time to be an AWPer, really, with the economy being the way it is. You know, you lose a few fucking rounds, you don't get your gun. So now, you know, it's almost like every AWPer either needs to be like play like Jim and just be super conservative, always save, you know, don't get caught out in any weird advanced positions. Or your team has to be good enough with the money and winning enough rounds to make sure you have the gun. Or you need to be a good fucking rifler deep down on some level as well. You actually need to have a backup plan. You know, there's not many fucking top tier hybrid players because it turns out these are it's an unbelievable skill set to have. You know, yeah, exactly. You either have to be Jim or you have to be simple. So, you know, pick your Zimu, pick your fucking Poison, you know. And unfortunately, not a lot of players are. It's why, look, there's a common theme through all of these teams that weren't doing well. It was AWPers that weren't, you know, at the top of their game, or young upcoming AWPers, or AWPers that don't get, you know, there's a thing.
It's all of them, mate. Same Man 2 and OG, same shit, yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't say they were bad players, and you wouldn't call for their heads to be dropped. So I don't know about complexity right now. I mean, I think they need a big showing and soon. But otherwise, you know, this was meant to be the great comeback. wasn't it? It was meant to be like, right, we've got Poison back. Look, they went and had those events, had those great first showings. People were like, right, see, this is what they can do. And it's just kind of petered out since then. And this was a very mediocre finish, I thought, for a tournament that they could have dominated in. The other one, can we talk about Vitality?
Yeah. I mean, mate, they're in a fucking really bad shape right now.
Yeah.
They don't. I'll tell you what. This sounds mad because obviously Astralis. So many times you thought the corpse was dying. It's like they had one last word and one last thing to say. Oh fucking hell, go on, bloody hell, keep going then. And eventually they're dead, right? Vitality, they've just never come back from this year. It's mental. What's mad is they hit that absolute peak at the end of last year. Apex was at his absolute most confident. He thought he'd cracked being an IGL. Everyone was at the coach of the year. Of course, they should have had all these awards, in my opinion. Then this year, mate, they have never, ever recovered from that period where they had to bench him bizarrely, and then they had to let go of the fucking Nevera, and then they brought in this new guy. Like, mate, they've never come back. It's over. Like, this is another team where, like, Ziwu right now, yeah, he's not the Ziwu of before. He's still a very fucking good player. He still does numbers. Yeah. But you look at their team, it's like they've got nothing.
Yeah,
they've got nothing.
It's a mad one for me. You know, the results that they had here, like, I mean, they got given a layup. I don't even think they go as deep in the tournament if they don't have to play like the likes of like Extra Salt or whatever. You know, they basically lost in the best of one complexity again, best of ones, whatever. They shouldn't even have been happening. But you know, here you go, here's Extra Salt. They still dropped a map to Extra Salt. Can you imagine the Vitality at the end of 2020 giving up a map to Extra Salt, mate? Like, no, obviously, that would never have happened. Then they got fed big, is big. They're mad inconsistent and on a downward trajectory. First real game they sort of came up against was Furia, and they got fucking bodied by Furia. Like, and then you put that on top of the double pony loss. I understand the problem. This is a lot more easier to analyze and assess. They're in the nightmare world. They are in the nightmare world of literally, right? You can bed one rookie in, right? You can always bed a rookie in. You can't bed in two at the same time. You're in for a real hard time of it. And unfortunately, what's going on in Vitality is you take in Masuta, who I still think it's fair to call him a rookie, right? I don't think he has some amazing tenured success in this space. So you've already got Masuta, who, by the way, has actually been outperforming Shocks in Apex. If you go and look at it recently, I don't think Masuta's a problem in this team, frankly. But they've gone all in on this Kyojin, you know, after taking out RPK. Weird history with that guy that we've talked about, where they're kind of tentatively framing it like saying, oh, he's been cleared by Valve. And, you know, they're not even copping to the VAC band accounts, right? Meanwhile, of course, you can say that now because of the VAC rules have changed. And this kid's come in. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's a huge opportunity for him. It's a huge step up as well. But, like,
it's been very good so far, has it?
Nah, he hasn't.
And presumably he was brought in to frag. I'm assuming that it's just logical if you look at the way the team set up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think a lot of people had high hopes for this guy. And listen, this is probably his first taste of any public criticism from the pundits. If you keep playing like this, get used to it. You know, it's been bad, and so you know I feel real sorry for Xtaz right now because he's dealing with. So let's put all the pieces of Vitality on the table. Masuta, a player who is developing and coming on leaps and bounds, has already showed you he could be a good player, but never had greatness in his career. Doesn't have a lot of experience. You're responsible for like developing that. You've got Shocks. Notoriously in his later years, a mad, inconsistent genius who, on his day, will absolutely dominate. Round to round, can do things no other player can do, but doesn't do it all the time. Apex, a guy who wasn't an IGL, who seemed to have adapted very well to the IGL role, and we've still never got to the bottom of that weird fucking mystery where Xtaz just randomly benched him and then brought him back, have we?
Oh. Never even been referenced as far as I can tell.
Never got to the bottom of it. No press releases about that, right? Just, yeah, I said that he was depressed and stressed, so I told him he wasn't playing anymore. Then he just brought himself back. Yeah, we never got to the bottom.
And the whole team tanked right after.
Yeah. We never got to the bottom of that. And then you remove RPK, who, while I understand if you have to make changes, you do put the veterans on the chopping block first. And when we're talking about veterans, once you get into your 30s, it's probably not unreasonable.
He was probably the oldest active player in the Counterstrike franchise, I would guess.
Yeah, and I mean, probably the oldest active player who was certainly the oldest active player
I mean, in
at
terms of
that
years.
level.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the oldest active player, but also, I mean, like the one who was at least still doing numbers. Like,
Sure.
he didn't look dog shit, did he? Considering he was like a veteran, he didn't look a million miles off the pace. You know, he wasn't what he was, but you know. So, and all of a sudden as well, 2021. I hate to say it to all the ZWoo fans around the world.
There's been some dodgy games, haven't there?
Yeah, really have. Like, and you know, this is where Vitality get into the mad world of the identity crisis.
By the way, now you see, if you're a fan of this show, why we were kept banging on Vitality and Na'Vi when they were like top 5 teams in the world. Because I said this to you. I said, first of all, you fucking better cherish the ZWoo versus Simple shit, because you don't get one of these players. Never mind 2 at the same time going head to head. That's some like next level shit. Secondly, what they're doing in both cases, maybe in terms of like roles, ZWoo had the better team. In terms of firepower, obviously Electronic helps out for you Simple. But even so, the numbers they're expected to drop are totally unreasonable. Well, what you're seeing now is when ZWoo even just becomes, I don't know, the 5th best player in the world, they're just losing games left, right, and centre, guys. That shows you he was propping something up in that team.
Yeah, and I think it's a problem they themselves, maybe on some level, have never really acknowledged. I always felt they were a little bit precious about it, going right back to that time they did all them interviews, going, no, we set ZWoo up, when it was abundantly clear to anyone with eyes, like, no, this guy was really dragging you through some games. So it's really hard. Like, look, at the end of the day, Xtaz has somehow got to make this work. I don't think it can anymore. I almost feel like the vitality they had with ZWoo's like impeccable legendary form, that was the perfect storm of a team that could, had its time, could have dominated, could have won a bunch of trophies, finished the year being in the discussion as being the number 1 team in the world. Didn't get it in the rankings on HLTV. Astralis did, but they were right up there in the discussion. Finished the year strong. And then, unfortunately, something is broke. You had the perfect equilibrium, and it's broken. And sometimes you just never get it back.
I have to say,
Team Liquid all over again.
Obviously, this will be so sad for historical reasons, to tradition reasons. Because in the same way as I hate the idea the best Danish player ever goes and joins a Swedish team, when Denmark's supposed to be the shit at CSGO.
Yep.
And I hate the idea, but I'm going to have to say this. What Vitality did was bring back French Counterstrike to the top of the world.
Yes.
Something that hadn't happened for years, truly. Yep. And that was an incredible feat by ZWoo, Alex early on, NBK's part, Xtaz, of course, especially in this last few years.
And they did it with familiar names. People who are literal, all future Hall of Famers, legends of the game. Yeah.
So, but I have to say this. It's time to go international. This next crop ain't living up to the billing. There aren't any stars there. I'm sorry. Masutra ain't going to make it. Kyogen isn't some superstar player. I know we haven't seen him that much. It's not enough in the team. And Shox just is not a good enough second star. He can maybe be the 3rd star. So you need big firepower. In my opinion, you have to go international. You got to get somebody who can deliver tomorrow.
So I don't know, because so here's one of the issues with this. Is that so? Think about Double Pony. You just wrecked them in Flashpoint. I don't consider Double Pony to be a great team by any stretch of the imagination.
They're not even technically a team. They're just sort of a mix at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. But in their numbers, you will see 2 players who've been in the position that like Masuta was, in the form of Body, who's now an IGL, and Lucky, who we obviously remember as well.
Used to be on G2.
Used to be on G2, exactly. So I think there has to come a cut-off point where you can't abandon the next crop of players, because you consign yourself to an unbelievable fallow period. And sure, international pickups puts a band-aid on that, but long term your recruitment strategy will be fucked. Now obviously you can't polish a turd. You can't always turn a good player into a great player, and Vitality are a team that aspire to greatness. But the problem you've got is, I think about what happened to Sweden. I think if you don't make a commitment to at least one of these players, you're potentially consigning yourself to say Vitality stick around and it's not like a flash in the pan org and they're serious and they don't mind having a rough period where you finish last a bunch and all the fans are on you. Maybe ZWoo says he wants to leave. That's got to be another prospect somewhere along the line. I know he's just signed a new contract, but what happens when one of the best players in the world keeps losing? We all know what happens. It gets in their heads and they want to make roster changes, bringing their mates, bringing people they're playing with FPL, make it all about them, So I'm not saying Zero has necessarily the ego or the personality for that, but I'll tell you, losing
tested,
stings.
though.
Yeah, it's going to be tested. It will be tested this year. And so, Xtaz has got to figure out what happens quick. Now, for me, I don't know why Nivera had to go. I'm still kind of confused on that.
Don't really get it myself, mate. He wasn't a monster player, but he clearly worked in their team, surely.
Well, he understood. Surely you have a head start with him. He understands your system. What was the point of keeping him around to cut him loose and now you're here? It's sort of like that was strange to me. And I thought Nivera was a decent player. I would describe him as, So I don't know. Xtaz, unfortunately, we're going to find out how truly a great coach he is. Because if he can turn this vitality around and make them great again, and actually get them like in contention for tournaments again, I'll tell you, Xtaz, yeah, he might even be a better coach than Zonic at that point. Because that would be like some god tier miracle. Oh. But yeah, I don't see it. I think Vitality aren't even a top 10 team in the world. At the moment. I don't think that's a controversial statement. And the double pony result in Flashpoint only sort of.
I'll give you the one other angle. This is the one other angle. I know it's not that many people seem to suggest it either. The obvious last chance move you can do, in my opinion, is bring home the prodigal son.
I've said it, mate.
Alex, we
you're talking about Alex.
Yeah.
For me, I'm talking about MBK.
Oh, right. Bring both of them back. Fuck it.
There's no way. I mean,
sadly, I feel like the wounds might run too deep on that one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know, right? So, the MBK one, I reckon that could be resolved. I know whenever Shox and MBK play together, nothing good ever comes of it. Like, I've been around.
Sure.
I've done this dance many times, don't you? Maybe you are right. Maybe you're gonna have to say sorry, Kyojin. Heartbreak for you. We're gonna bring Alex back. And instead of Apex being an IGL now, Alex is gonna be the IGL, and Apex is gonna go back to being like a pure entry fragger. So I don't know. Maybe someone's got to change. Again, it's just this concept of time. Major's round the corner, boys. It's gonna sneak up on everybody. And you need to be in a position where you're at least competitive coming into the major. You've got to at least be able to go to an RMR and beat a fucking mixed team.
There's another thing, by the way. Bearing in mind, at the moment, they're 1 foot out of the door getting their shit canned out of this RMR. If they fail this RMR, then forget it. Just make the change you need to make.
Yeah,
because you're not even holding on to points at that point in time.
Well, yeah, that's the other point, right?
Yeah.
That's, because every time you change your roster, you lose a percentage of your RMR points. Well, if you've got fuck all, bite the bullet now, make the hard change now, and hope that you can pull it back at some point. And
just try to win the next one or whatever. Yeah,
it has to be done like that. And then look, let's skip to the final, and then we might not even have time for viewer questions. I don't want to make this like a fucking.
We can roll and over the next one.
Yeah, we will. So let's get to the final. First, I just want to talk about Heroic, because obviously they had 2 players come down with COVID this tournament, and I thought they looked very, very solid until even in the loss to Na'Vi, they looked great, and Heroic have shown that they are consistent. I wouldn't make any excuses on their behalf, but Cadian and Tezes both came down with COVID at this event. I think it's just a noteworthy point that, maybe they weren't 100%. I'll always give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
I love Heroic. But of course, the big story was, were Gambit going to win another event, or was Na'Vi going to finally break the curse? Now, Na'Vi had already lost to Gambit earlier in the tournament. They lost 2-1. I think Gambit is still a much, much better team than Na'Vi. I think they play much, much better Counterstrike than Na'Vi. But in this one, there was almost like an air of inevitability going into the final. I noticed that there was a tweet from Gambit players saying the best of 5 is too much. And I was wondering going in, a Gambit just starting to feel that heat now. It's very difficult to lead from the front in Counter-Strike. And this is the first time where you're expected to win. You're the favourites. Shame everyone's watching your demos, isn't it? Shame everyone's trying to play like you. Shame everyone wants to be Gambit or beat Gambit. And now here's the best of 5 against your bitter CIS rivals who are absolutely fired up. Couple of factors in this as well. I mean, I don't like the best of 5s. Turns out it would have been academic in this. But Na'Vi, the previous 2 times they played the best of 5 and gone 2-0 up, they lost 3-2.
Yes.
So they fucking hate best of 5s as well, by the way. So It wouldn't have made a difference if it was a best of 3 or a best of 5 this time, but it certainly has in the past. I still think Navi's map pool's a bit shaky, but it just felt like, all due respect to Gambit, who have been incredible at the moment, they were second best consistently throughout this final. And, they just didn't turn up. I mean, they on Overpass, which was their pick, they got absolutely blasted. That's traditionally a problem for Na'Vi. They've had real time management issues on that map. That was gone. Na'Vi looked completely transformed. Then you have Dust 2. I thought this was the dangerous one because it's Na'Vi's pick. I think Gambit will, they can fuck you up on Dust 2 if you let them. They've done it many times. Didn't happen. Okay, so now we're staring into the abyss of train. Right, well, surely Gambit are going to be competitive here. No, not really, actually, in the grand scheme of things. Shiro just didn't really turn up in this final.
Had a terrible match, didn't he?
Yeah, and it was a big factor. What was interesting to me was at the end, when I did my video saying, is this going to be like the Na'Vi era or is it a false dawn? Loads of people were saying, put some respect on Perfecto's name. I've done that consistently all the time. He was shite in the final. He was a big, big problem and a weakness that was definitely exploited by Gambit time and time again. No, the real talking point about this was, yeah, sure, Simple was sick on the first 2 maps, but the electronic factor throughout this, electronic woke the fuck up, and Bit actually proved what many of us have known for a while, that he is a much better fit for this team. Yes. And probably is a better overall player than fucking Flamey.
He should have been in the team for real ages ago. Here's what I've realised they did here. Like, I'm still not 100% sold. Obviously, he hasn't had that many tournaments entirely in, but they basically Bobskied that guy. They got a guy, you bring him in presumably because you think he has talent, and then you just let him play the odd map every now and then. Well, as you saw with Bobski, who also is in way better form, if people have noticed, they have to have fucking... I told people there are concepts called ring rust and match fitness. They're not just about football and sports, guys. Some of it's psychological as well. Like, you think in the UFC they're not in shape. They do massive training camps, but if you haven't been in the ring for 2 or 3 years, like Conor McGregor found out, it's just different when you're in there, that you're not the same feel. So as a result, like, mate, he's a perfect example. Think of what could have been if they'd have had him in last year.
Yeah, of course.
They could have just timelined this all the way back.
Yeah, and what you have to realize is, this is, Flamey was a guy, like, you never even knew who the fuck was going to turn up when you picked Flamey. There was always that one good map in 10, wasn't there? And that's what kept all the Na'Vi fans dangling for so long, was like, he drops fucking, oh, it's Mirage, he's dropped 40 kills, yeah, Flamey's back. I mean, he's never going to be back. There's something, that, even as Blade said in your interview with him, there is something lacking in Flamey's brain. He will never be a top player ever again. Yes. He will never be a top tier player.
It was implied he couldn't sort of grasp tactics at times or something.
Yeah. It's the game's moved on. We are in now one of the most mad, high-level tactical eras of Counterstrike. The tactical ceiling is mental at the moment. And Gambit and Heroic and, I'm not going to say Na'Vi just because they won a tournament, but other teams, let's say, including Astralis just before they fell off and lost the vice, they've all made a massive contribution to that. We are seeing some of the most intricate and balanced Counter-Strike ever played. And so then the idea that, Flamey, well, I'm just going to turn up and maybe drop 40. Well, whoops, no, I'm playing absolutely shit and I can't even do basic rotations. Brilliant, yeah. He should have gone ages ago. Frankly, it's an embarrassment that he held onto the jersey for as long as he did. It was terrible fucking...
At times, he was almost playing clown-like.
Don't you fucking start again. Don't you start. I can't be arsed having another picture of me made up in clown makeup with a picture of Flamey's new pearly white fucking teeth in front of me. The greasy says I can't deal with it. Anyway, so listen, I mean, you got to give him mad credit for this. But I don't know, did you get the read that maybe like Gambit was starting to fail a little bit? Because I don't want to take away from Na'Vi. But, like, this Gambit side had never lost to Na'Vi. Then going into the finals, you're talking about, like...
Chuck, mate. What's mad about them is I agree with you. It's almost like, even though they've actually won so many fucking matches in the last, like, 2 or 3 months, like an obscene amount of best of threes, and against all the best teams in the world, it's almost like this is when it actually hit them that, like, oh, we're there, we're the favourites now. We are number one. Because coming into the final, by the way, because they'd already beaten Na'Vi, the narrative was Simple has to just be a god. And if he doesn't, they have no chance. That was the vibe. And in fact, because how Simple's been playing, people were like, maybe even if he is the best player, they would lose. Instead, the idea that Na'Vi 3-0s you, and by the way, I'll even throw this in there. This is how I know Gambit was shook. Towards the end of that train game, the third map, Na'Vi was doing old Na'Vi. Like, they were doing their best to lose that motherfucking map. Like, the electronic code entry, move in, and they would find a way to get everyone to get shot in the side of the head. Even when you're on the bomb site, like, it's like they were doing, like, you know, Na'Vi classically, they're the team where they go two maps up, it's 14 rounds on the third, and lost, and lose the whole series.
And lost to an eco, yeah.
But the problem is Gambit couldn't put that pressure on them, you know?
Yeah, not this time. That was what was weird. I think, you know, because when they played him in the best of 3 prior to that, they got battered on Dust 2, right? And they actually looked better on Dust 2 in the final than they did when they got battered. But again, it was the old stalwarts. It was like, right, it's all the pass, right? It's Mirage. Yeah, we got this. Like, we totally have. This is fine for Gambit. So, you know, the one thing you say about Gambit going into a best of 5 is, well, they got the better map pool. They got the deeper map pool. These guys are insanely competitive on every map. Yet weird tweets just before the final. It's also got to be said, you've got to give, because this will make the show circular if we end here. You've got to just say, like, Simple played out of his motherfucking
He had some of the best stats for this tournament, like, ever, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know overall, if you go and look at the HLTV like ranking number, like Zero had like a 1.5, but he did it on half as many maps.
Yes.
And obviously,
and Simple played against the number 1, number 2 teams repeatedly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know,
no
this
easy games.
Yeah, you know what Simple has been able to get back to when we were worried, like, does he drop off? This tournament, he was a man possessed. And you know, in the final, incredibly, he was great on the first 2 maps and a little bit quiet on the third. But that's always been the question for me. Like, it's like, what happens if Simple loses his mojo for just a little moment?
Sure.
You know, in traditionally in the past, Na'Vi don't convert. That's what happens. Actually, in fact, there was almost like this bizarre psychological effect of like, oh my God, Simple's not playing well, fucking hell. And it was just like, you know, it just all went to pieces immediately. No, this was a clear MVP performance. Like, I mean, he did get the official MVP, but it was very clear he could have not turned up to the final and been MVP at a tournament. He was dominant against Heroic. He was great against Furia. You know, the level of consistency from this guy right now, it's like, it's so startling to think that this guy is like still has only the handful of trophies that he does, when this guy should be one of the most decorated players of all time. Like, it's
crazy how few tournaments he's won in it.
Yeah.
I will say though, listen, I know there's still a couple of people who cling on to the idea that, like, unless he wins the major, he's not the GOAT. He's going to break every single one of you. Because you cannot defy greatness like this. Like, at the end of the day, if he retires with his career with no major, and, like, let's say he only wins, I'm going to say, like, 10 trophies in his whole career, even the biggest critic of Simple, and, like, I'm talking about pro players or the people in the industry, you'll all have to say it actually shows that just Counterstrike wasn't an individual game. You'll all have to break and say he was the greatest ever.
Yeah.
Because it's just absurd, the streak.
Yeah.
Has he just been, like, the absolute best for, like, 3 years now?
Yeah, no, it is mad. Like, it is mad. And again, I think we'll even look back retroactively at that year where we got Ziwu fever and, like, yeah, Ziwu sick and all that. But
actually, Simple was pretty fucking insane then too, wasn't
he?
Exactly.
Like, even in the year when he supposedly was being replaced.
If that's a down year, mate, fucking hell, come on.
But, you know, for me, I think the most impressive performance was against Heroic. Like, he beat Heroic single-handedly. Yes. I'll just say that. And I absolutely believe it. You know, he got I don't have it in front of me, but it was like it was something like 87 kills on 3 maps. It was like it was something insane. It was like really mental. And it's like you know, he broke Heroic. They were just like, fuck it. It's not definitely not our day to day. You know, that was happening while Tezes is popping off. Everyone's going, oh, look, Tezes crosshairs moved funny. He won't do it at LAN. Tezes will do it at LAN. Like, Heroic are a fucking sick team. Have some respect. But yeah, Simple beat them single-handedly, and that's the number 2 team in the world. How many players do you know can just get on a server, line up against the number 1 team in the world, the number 2 team in the world, and just batter them by himself? Like, that's mental, like, you know? So yeah, look, super happy they won a tournament. But just to sort of go around, like, you know, they have to go and do it the next time. They have to go to the next tournament now, and they must have a good performance, and they must make it to the final, or, you know, or win. They have to show the fans and people like me, and you can say my opinion doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter so much, stop crying about it. They have to show that they can be consistent and actually string together the wins that they deserve. The problem is they always take their foot off the pedal when they get one like this. They know the fans will be satisfied. You know, they feel a great weight come off their shoulders and they get complacent again immediately. That cannot happen. It cannot happen again. Their next event is that fucking Epic League. So I don't even know if I want to count that. But have you seen it? It's like a huge league with all the CIS teams in. So Gambit.
Isn't it the RMR?
Yeah, it's like, sorry. It's the Epic League RMR, my bad.
I mean,
so
to be fair, CIS is pretty good right now, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, but
it's not the European teams, I agree.
It goes Navi, Gambit, Spirit,
Virtus drop off.
Pro, and then,
And then you're into probably don't need to mention them at that point, Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, they have to go and dominate that for me.
Yeah, you've got to mop up.
Yeah, you know, and we'll find out how deep this rivalry with Gambit goes. So there you go. That's the show. Let's wrap it up there. We're not going to do viewer questions because we spent too long pontificating on drama, and I'm tired and I'm old, and Duncan probably says as well, although we'll never admit it because he says, I'm built for war and I'll batter you all the time in a video game.
There you go.
But I'm not. I'm not like that. So, look, we will do your rollover questions. So, obviously, shout out to the sponsors. Mad, I know we'll praise G2 next week. Don't worry, G2 fans. They have turned the corner. I did say that. You got one line of praise. I'm sure when Nico will fucking be dining out and then praise me, right, for ages. But anyway, we'll get to that, guys. We'll get to that. So, look, shout out, of course, to the sponsors. .com. As I said, go check out the NFT giveaway they're doing. I've retweeted it. It's on their Twitter. I'll do another tweet later on. It's a cool way to get in on the ground floor about good initiative they're doing. I love working with them. They're always trying new ideas. Just a cool sponsor to have. I just really like them. And obviously our VPN sponsor as well, NordVPN. You want 70% off a VPN? Go do it. I'm a grade A partner. They all love it. Right? Fucking, so, you know, save yourself money, make me look like a don. I know some of you out there still want to do that. And obviously the people who do are the patrons. People who brought the show back on Patreon. And now we've been running for almost 160 fucking God knows how many episodes of the return. But shout out to the legend Jerky's Minion, Will the Weed Wrangler, Benedict, Zarathenia, Cathal, Flacksmith, J-Dubs, Hannah Maru, Alice, Tobias Bernasconi, Carve, Marcus Kyumpa, and our $50 patrons, Zumba, Petty Grievances, Tim Frost, Bukowski, Dancer Master, Adam Ox, Nolan, Judas, Can of Pasito, Airhammer, Norwegian Clamai, Bacon, Goody Woody, Lonnie, Fursock, Echo, Res Chi, Miss Alcoholic, BP420, Watch Doge, Reykjavik on Steam, Carter, CMAC 1991, Benakagi, Alex Seaton, Sardsawar. Thanks for everyone for tuning in for our thoughts. Stay out of the fucking drama, guys. Please, honestly, please go talk about something worthwhile, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.